Chapter 16:16. There's something wrong with that fruit. Yichen stopped Yang Tian's impulse. Hearing that, Yang Tian was shocked at first. He immediately suppressed the fire in his heart and chose to remain silent. Since Yichen said that, he must have his reasons. At the same time, Jiang Shengwu and the others had already divided up the five-color glazed fruits. Even Saint Master 3 Gloom, an undead creature, got one. The remaining one was given to a cultivator in Great Completion Void Refinement Realm. After plucking the five-colored glazed fruits, the Heavenly Jade Holy Master said, "This fruit can't be kept. The medicinal effects will completely fade over time." At this point, his eyes flickered as he looked at Jiang Shengwu and the rest. His gaze finally landed on Yichen. If he consumed the fruit on the spot, he would have to meditate and adjust his breathing. Once that happened, he would definitely be in danger. However, if he did not consume it, he could only watch as the fruit faded away. How could Jiang Shengwu not understand what he meant? He immediately looked at Yichen and the rest with killing intent. "Guys, are you guys going to stay and reminisce with us?" "Old man, do you think we'll ambush you?" Yang Tian chuckled. The Heavenly Jade Holy Master said in an almost targeted manner, "Fellow Yi, if there's nothing else, please leave. Let's go." Yichen's eyes flashed. He immediately led Yang Tian and the rest into the distance. Yang Tian asked in confusion, "Old Yi, why should we be afraid of them?" "Afraid?" The Patriarch of Hell snickered. "Just watch the show from now on." After watching Yichen and the rest leave, the perfected void refinement cultivator who had obtained a fruit could not help but swallow it. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to adjust his breathing. As he was from the great Jiang God dynasty, with a powerhouse like Jiang Shengwu in charge, no one dared to attack him. In less than half an hour, everyone saw purple energy suddenly shoot out from the top of the former's head. They could not help but feel extremely envious. It was a sign that his cultivation base had improved. "Thank you, Divine Master." After that person woke up, he was extremely grateful to Jiang Shengwu. Jiang Shengwu looked at him carefully and probed. "How do you feel?" "This old man feels very good. This fruit is indeed miraculous. It's enough for me to meditate for 100 years. The former was extremely excited. Seeing this, the last bit of caution in Jiang Shengwu's heart finally dissipated. He shouted, "People of the Divine Imperial Court, protect me." After saying that, he immediately sat down cross-legged and swallowed the five-color glazed fruit, while the people of the great Jiang Divine Dynasty surrounded him. "People of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land, protect me." The Heavenly Jade Sacred Leader was not to be outdone. In just a few breaths, the two of them had already swallowed the five-colored glazed fruit. Even so, they still sent out a strand of their divine sense to lock onto everything. They were extremely cautious. Only Saint Lord 3U and Huangfu Yu did not seem to be in a hurry to consume it. Sage Monarch 3 nether glanced at Huangfu Yu. "Why don't you take it, fellow Taoist Huangfu? This sage lord has the body of an undead, so this fruit is useless to me." Huangfu Yu smiled and said, "I've never liked to use external objects to cultivate, so I'll give this fruit to someone else." With a wave of his sleeve, the five-color glazed fruit immediately fell into the hands of Elder Gu behind him. "Thank you, Chief." Elder Gu had been coveting it for a long time. Now that he saw Huangfu Yu being so generous, how could he not be happy? After thanking him, he immediately swallowed it. Huangfu Yu's expression was calm, but he could not help but look in the direction where Yichen and the rest had left. His eyes flickered. Logically speaking, the fruit was so precious. However, why did Yichen and the rest not fight for it? Instead, they watched as they divided it up. Could it be that they were really afraid of them? At the same time, a sinister laugh suddenly sounded from the depths of the secret realm. There are actually two people who can resist the temptation of this fruit. Even I would be tempted if I saw this fruit, especially the young man surnamed Yi and the silver-haired young man. Could it be that they saw through our trap? After saying that, he tried his best to move his body and looked at the depths of the pool that was wrapped in the black house. "Old demon, there are too many people here this time. What should we do next?" "Just follow the plan." An evil voice came from the pool. So what if there are more people? They're only at the void refinement stage. I'll take care of them myself. What? You're going personally? Aren't you afraid of exposing yourself and attracting the attention of the master of this world's treasure? The demon lord's soul fragment can't be delayed any longer. If you continue to be afraid, it'll be easy for things to happen. As soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous demonic energy suddenly whizzed out from the pool and hid in the void. At the same time, about 1,000 kilometers away from the abandoned herb garden, Yang Tian turned his head 3 times with every step he took. Old Yi, there's still no movement over there. Could that fruit be real? Until now, he still had not given up on the so-called 5-colored glazed fruit. Clearly, he could not resist the temptation of being able to instantly increase his cultivation base by 100 years. Yichen glanced at him helplessly and said, "Tell me, the so-called 5-colored glazed fruit is filled with corpses and there are traces of battle. Why has the fruit been preserved until now?" Fellow Taoist, Yi is right. Yu Taiyuan nodded slightly and said, "Logically speaking, everything should have been destroyed in such a large-scale battle. Why were only the 5 fruits preserved? What if the fruit grew after those people died?" Yang Tian smiled bitterly. "That won't happen." Yi Chun shook his head lightly. "The 5-colored glazed fruits plant must absorb the flesh and blood of the dead to bear fruit. Otherwise, how could it have the heaven-defying effect of instantly increasing a cultivator's cultivation base by 100 years? At this point, he added, "Also, in reality, the real 5-colored glazed fruit can only survive in the 5-colored soil." "What's 5-colored soil?" Yang Tian asked subconsciously. Yu Taiyuan chuckled and said, "The so-called 5-colored soil is a feng shui theory. Where there is a true dragon's vein, there will be 5-colored soil. It's not that there are 5 colors. It's generally cinnabar, orange, and white." Yang Tian recalled and could not help but shake his head. There was indeed no 5-colored soil in that place earlier. "That's why I said there's something wrong with the fruit." Yi Chen's eyes flickered as he said, "However, I don't understand why this fruit appeared." An hour later, Yi Chen arrived at the depths of a mountain. As soon as the group stepped in, Yang Tian seemed to have stepped on some kind of mechanism that instantly activated the formation. Buzz, a gigantic light formation, trapped everyone within it. Outside the light formation, countless malicious spirits and evil creatures materialized and attacked Yi Chun and the rest. "Little Yang, you're really a troublemaker." Old Ancestor Yellow Spring cursed as he dealt with the swarm of ghosts and phantoms that surged towards him. Flames danced in Yi Chen's eyes. He suddenly said, "It's not his fault. There's a barrier here to begin with." End of this chapter. Chapter 16-17. Whoosh! In an instant, an extremely dazzling purple lightning exploded from Yi Chen's palm. It whizzed out like a spiderweb. It was the purple heaven divine lightning. Everyone immediately heard all kinds of shrill screams, and all those who were touched by the purple cloud heavenly thunder were turned into ashes. These ghosts were not powerful. They were around the level of a ghost emperor, which was equivalent to the nascent soul stage of cultivators. However, a second wave of ghosts would appear endlessly after the first wave was destroyed. "Fellow Yi, this isn't a long-term solution. We have to break this formation." The Patriarch of Hell roared. "Break!" Yi Chan freed his other hand and threw a domineering punch. It landed heavily on the formation light screen that trapped them. Since he could not kill them all, he would break everything with brute force. "Break!" At the same time, the Patriarch of Hell, Yu Taiyuan, and the rest attacked with all their might, unleashing all sorts of abilities and spells. In just a few breaths of time, the formation light screen began to dim, as if it was on the verge of collapse. "Let's work harder. The formation is about to break." The Patriarch of Hell shouted. Rumble. In the end, along with a loud bang, the light barrier shattered, and a quiet passageway appeared before everyone's eyes. "There's a door." Everyone was overjoyed when they saw this. Clearly, they did not expect that a passage would appear after the formation was broken. "This is my opportunity." Yang Tian glanced at the Patriarch of Hell. "Patriarch, if I hadn't activated this formation earlier, no one would have discovered this passage. The Patriarch of Hell's face was filled with disdain. Let's go. Yichen took a step out of the quiet passage first. The passage was about 10 meters tall, and there were countless relief sculptures carved on the surrounding stone walls. They looked like ferocious ghosts. However, after walking for less than a kilometer, they realized that there was no path ahead. They were blocked by a thick stone wall. Bang! The Patriarch of Hell gathered his energy into a sword and slashed out. This sword strike that could kill any soul formation cultivator could not shake the stone wall at all. Could this be a dead end? Yang Tian was a little depressed. CK. Are they messing with us? Which goddamn old fart came up with this prank? Don't be agitated. There should be a formation. Yichen comforted him. Raging flames suddenly bloomed in his eyes. Subsequently, he formed a seal with both hands and slapped the dead end in front of them. Boom! Under everyone's dumbfounded expressions, the stone walls on both sides violently trembled as a teleportation array appeared in front of everyone. Go! Yichen did not hesitate. He called everyone over and stepped into the gigantic teleportation formation. When everyone reappeared, they realized that they were in an endless sea of flames. Everyone turned back to find that there was still a boundless sea of flames behind them, and the temperature was so high that even Lei Yunzi and the others' expressions changed slightly. The strangest thing was that there were actually 8 holes in all directions that seemed to lead to the outside. Patriarch Yellow Spring shouted, "Look up!" Everyone immediately looked over and saw a huge bronze surface above their heads. There were countless giant carvings on it. Pill furnace. We're in a pill furnace. Yichen said something that shocked everyone. What? Pill furnace? Yang Tian was so shocked that he trembled. Such a huge pill furnace? It's at least 1,000 square meters, right? Who would use such a huge pill furnace to refine pills? Lei Yunzi and the rest were also shocked. A pill furnace that was over 1,000 square meters? Was he trying to refine pills or humans? It's indeed a pill furnace. Patriarch Yellow Spring narrowed his eyes and said, I've seen this kind of pill furnace before. It's not used for refining pills. To be precise, it's used for sacrifices. Since it's a pill furnace, let's go out through the vent. This fire is too powerful. If this goes on, I'll become a roasted pig. Yang Tian wanted to cry, but had no tears. Patriarch Yellow Spring sized up his burly body and forced himself to say, It's a roasted pig, not a roasted suckling pig. Yichen nodded lightly. Just as he was about to bring everyone out through the vent, he saw a ray of light suddenly spreading out from the center of the flames in the distance. What's that? He narrowed his eyes and activated his golden pupil flame with all his might. He saw a dazzling lotus leaf vibrating in the center of the flames. Golden light, purple light, green energy, scarlet light, and yellow halo resonated with each other. 5-element heavenly lotus. Yichen's expression changed almost at that moment. Then he was overjoyed. 5-element heavenly lotus. He had finally found it. With this thought in mind, his figure moved. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he whizzed towards the center of the flames. What's old you doing? Yang Tian was shocked. Yichen did not seem to hear him. Instead, he sped up. The closer he got to the 5-element heavenly lotus, the more terrifying the temperature became. Yichen was not afraid at all. The 5-element heavenly lotus concerned Su Yuhan's life and death. He had to get it. Just as he was about to approach the 5-element heavenly lotus, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him like a bolt of lightning. Brother Yi, so he's your target. When the figure landed, a familiar face appeared. It was Huang Fuyu. Yichen's eyes turned grim. It's you. Subsequently, his eyes could not help but flicker because Huang Fuyu had changed too much at that moment. His entire body was wrapped in demonic energy, as if he had transformed into a supreme devil. With Huang Fuyu's appearance, old ancestor Yellow Spring and the others in the distance were shocked and subconsciously rushed over. Boom! In an instant, another dozen black shadows landed beside them, revealing the faces of Jiang Shengwu and the rest. At that moment, Jiang Shengwu and the rest were exactly the same as Huang Fuyu in terms of temperament and appearance. What powerful demonic energy! How did they become like this? Could it be caused by the so-called five-colored glazed fruit? Even the patriarch of hell and the rest could not help but be shocked. Huang Fuyu looked at Yi Chun quietly with his black eyes. He said with a forced smile, "Brother Yi, I'm guessing you must be very curious about why I became like this. Have you been possessed?" Yi Chun looked at him fixedly and said word by word, "How sad. A genius of the Huangfu family has been possessed by a devil." Even though he did not know why Huang Fuyu had become like this, he could vaguely guess that it had something to do with the so-called five-colored glazed fruit. Possessed? Huang Fuyu chuckled. No, no, no. How can a person like me accept being possessed? To be precise, I've chosen a path that's extremely suitable for me. It is precisely this path that causes Brother Yi to appear a little weak in my eyes. He shook his head lightly, as if he was confident of victory. Is that so? Yi Chun smirked coldly. Since you want to die, don't blame me. Stand. In the next moment, he took a step forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 16-18. You're just a defeated opponent. Yi Chun's expression was calm as he stared at Huang Fuyu. Boundless killing intent surged out. If I can kill you once, I can kill you again. Shameless boasting. Huang Fuyu smirked coldly. I'd like to see how you're going to fight me now. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, boundless demonic energy erupted from his body like a torrent. Then, it completely filled the huge pill furnace, causing everyone's expression to change. True demonic energy. In the distance, the patriarch of hell's expression changed drastically. This is true demonic energy. Fellow Yi, be careful. I'm afraid there's such a terrifying existence in this person's body. True demonic energy? Yi Chun was slightly shocked. There were two types of demons in this world. One was cultivated, while the other was born. The latter was known as the most authentic demon bloodline. Even in the devil world, it was considered a noble bloodline. So what if you have help? If you dare to stop me, you'll still die. At that moment, all the pores on Yi Chun's body opened up. Rays of divine light spewed out from his pores. His entire body seemed to be wrapped in divine flames. Boom! Huang Fuyu suddenly clenched his fist, and monstrous demonic energy surged. Then, it directly turned into a giant black demonic wolf. It charged at Yi Chun with an extremely evil aura. His attack was like an ancient demon lord descending to the mortal world. His demonic might was monstrous and difficult to resist. It was as if the space inside the pill furnace was about to collapse at any moment. So, you've been infused with demonic energy. Yi Chun smirked when he saw that. How dare you show yourself to stop me with something that someone else gave you? Boom! Almost at the same time, a large patch of divine flames rose from the space where Yi Chun was. He was like a king in an endless world of flames, unleashing surging power. At the next moment, he raised his right palm and clenched it into a fist. He took a step forward like an eagle soaring into the sky or an ape moving a mountain. He was domineering and swift, terrifying people. Rumble. The divine light split open as if heaven and earth were splitting apart. Yi Chun broke the giant demonic wolf in an extremely domineering manner. His speed did not decrease as he charged at Huang Fuyu like lightning. As the dazzling golden light converged, the rapidly surging fist shadows seemed to transform into thousands of golden meteorites that shot toward Huang Fuyu. Good timing. The demonic aura in Huang Fuyu's eyes surged. He raised his palms, and a suffocating demonic aura gushed out. Black balls of light quickly condensed around his body. Every single one of those balls of light emitted an extremely evil aura. Swish, swish! Huang Fuyu waved his sleeve, and the densely packed light balls whizzed out. Subsequently, they collided with Yi Chun's attack. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the entire pill furnace shook violently, as if it could explode at any moment. Attack! At the same time, Yang Tian roared and his body started to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if he had turned into a terrifying war beast. In the blink of an eye, the aura on his body climbed rapidly. The peak of the early void refinement realm, the mid-void refinement realm, the peak of the mid-void refinement realm. Finally, when he reached the late void refinement stage, he let out a deafening roar and immediately rushed toward Huang Fuyu and the others who were confronting the crowd. Kill! Terrifying lightning erupted from Lei Yunzi's palm as he attacked. Yutian, Ying, the Patriarch of Hell, and the rest attacked at the same time. Roar! Tribulation glanced at the five-element heavenly lotus in the middle of the flames and roared at the sky. The pair of golden bone wings on his back shook violently. Boom! He seemed to have transformed into a primordial being as he charged toward the five-element heavenly lotus. He wanted to pluck the five-element heavenly lotus for Yichun. Boom! At that moment, a huge human-shaped skeleton attacked and blocked his path. Your opponent is me. It was Supreme Sage Sanya, who had been hiding in the dark. He looked at Tribulation greedily. Both of them were undead creatures, and their levels were almost the same. If they wanted to break through, they could only advance by devouring each other's soul fire. This was an advancement battle. The weak were prey to the strong, and the victor was king. Fight! Tribulation was not afraid at all. The soul fire in his eyes burned brighter and brighter as he charged toward the former. Rumble! In an instant, an earth-shattering battle erupted in the space of the huge pill furnace. Surging pressure and true origin energy surged endlessly. Meanwhile, the real battlefield was between Yi Chun and Huang Fuyu. Boom! The two of them fought intensely and kept colliding. Demonic energy and vast true origin energy surged violently, shocking everyone. Kill! Huang Fuyu's figure moved like lightning, and his murderous aura surged into the sky. It was as if there were hundreds of millions of gods and demons roaring behind him. Boom! Yichun was calm. He unleashed the divine fist created in 33 days. It was fierce and fierce, pushing the power of his physical body to the limit. Black! Huang Fuyu was unable to withstand such a swift and violent attack. He took the blow head-on and was forced to retreat. Scarlet blood spurted from his mouth. Is that all you're capable of? Yichun placed his hands behind his back. His black hair was rolling in the flames. At that moment, the energy on his body was extremely powerful. On the other hand, Huang Fuyu's pupils constricted slightly. Then, a strange arc appeared at the corner of his lips. Brother Yi, do you really think that I, Huang Fuyu, am still the same Su Qian from the past? Hiss. As soon as he finished speaking, his skin turned red at an astonishing speed. Then, an endless amount of blood gushed out from his pores, and a ruthless aura enveloped him. One could see that the blood in his body was flowing, and it was flowing in reverse, propping up all his blood vessels and meridians. I forgot to tell you, it's not just your physical body that's strong. I'm not inferior to you either. Let me experience my current Rakshasa demonic body. A ferocious grin appeared at the corner of his lips. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. As his fist shook violently, he took a step forward and charged at Yi Chun with a terrifying aura. Yi Chun's eyes flashed. He charged at him at high speed as well. Divine flames covered his body, and his arms were crystal clear as he fought Huang Fuyu head-on. Boom! Boom! At that moment, the others who were fighting felt as if they heard the sound of the sky exploding. Yi Chun and Huang Fuyu fought intensely. They collided head-on. Terrifying sparks splashed from their bodies like 2 tanks colliding. Bang! With an earth-shattering bang, the two of them were sent flying. Clearly, neither of them could do anything to the other. However, Yi Chun's gaze when he looked at Huang Fuyu became extremely serious. The latter's Rakshasa demonic body displayed an extremely strange self-healing ability. Every time Yi Chun's attack landed on him, even if he was injured, the injury would recover instantly. Chapter 1619. No. On the contrary, at that moment, an earth-shattering sound rang out in the entire pill furnace space. It was like a war beast that pierced through the heavenly jade holy master's heart with one claw. Then, Two sharp fangs pierced into the latter's neck. Under everyone's gaze, as Ing sucked, the heavenly jade holy master's body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bang! Ing exerted strength in his arms. With a loud bang, the heavenly jade holy master's shriveled body exploded. He was forcefully torn into pieces. Roar! Subsequently, an earth-shattering roar belonging to the corpse king shook everything. Ying's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the remaining Jiang Shengwu and the rest with a cold expression. This was Ying. Huang Fuyu did not seem to care about the heavenly jade holy master's death at all. His gaze was still on Yi Chun. Brother Yi, do you feel hopeless and helpless now? His gaze was ferocious and extremely sinister. Unfortunately, I'm going to die here today, let alone save my cute sister. Is that so? Yi Chun suddenly smiled. Huang Fuyu, you think too highly of yourself. I told you, the power now isn't yours after all. At the next moment, he threw a punch, four symbols true spirit treasure technique. A mysterious symbol appeared on his fist. It seemed to be rising with rays of light, supreme and holy. Boom! Immediately after, the endless flames in the huge pill furnace space began to riot. Then, they surged toward him as if they were alive. Rumble. As the symbol in Yi Chun's hand grew larger and larger, a Qilin with supreme divine might emerge from the flames with a loud bang. Die! Yi Chun walked like a dragon and swept his fists at Huang Fuyu. From afar, it looked like a Qilin had appeared out of nowhere. Four symbols true spirit treasure technique. It was a killing technique known as a forbidden technique. It was said that it was comprehended by the ancestor of the four symbols divine beasts of the immortal world. It was enough to crush everything. What kind of divinity is this? At that moment, Huang Fuyu's cold expression finally changed slightly. He could feel that Yi Chun gave him a creepy feeling at that moment. Rakshasa demon's soul, Huang Fuyu roared. His hoarse voice came from his throat, like the roar of a supreme devil. Suddenly, countless blood threads shot out from his body. The blood threads fused with the surrounding demonic qi and turned into a huge blood shadow that enveloped Huang Fuyu. The blood shadow was like a ferocious giant beast. It was over 1,000 feet tall, and its appearance could not be seen clearly. There seemed to be a pair of antlers on its head, wrapped in a torrential blood aura, and its roar was enough to shake the heavens and earth. In that instant, Huang Fuyu's expression turned completely sinister, and a mournful cry rang out. Yi Chun, I transformed into Su Qilin and reincarnated into the mortal world just to return to my peak. However, it destroyed my clan and destroyed my body. You stole my sovereign seal again, forcing me to choose this path. Roar! The huge blood shadow that enveloped him also let out a monstrous roar. Dense blood energy almost enveloped the entire space of the huge pill furnace. The might it emitted caused the expressions of Old Ancestor, Yellow Spring, and the others to change. Old Yi, Yang Tian roared. Boom! Huang Fuyu took a step forward and waved his right palm. The huge blood shadow behind him immediately attacked Yi Chun with monstrous blood aura. Break! Yi Chun roared into the sky. He seemed to have transformed into a gigantic fire Qilin. His divine might was unparalleled as he soared into the sky. At that moment, he activated the four symbols true spirit treasure technique to its limit. Under everyone's gazes, the two divine abilities that carried a destructive force collided heavily in that instant. It was as if they were going to shatter the sky. Boom! The boundless and terrifying storm engulfed everything in a frenzy, like the fluctuations caused by the explosion of a nuclear bomb. At that moment, be it the Patriarch of Hell and the rest, or Jiang Shengwu and the rest, they all vomited blood under the terrifying might before being sent flying. Boom! As an earth-shattering sound rang out, the giant pill furnace finally couldn't withstand the pressure and shattered with a loud bang. Everyone retreated into the distance and looked at the center of the storm nervously, especially Yang Tian and the rest. Their brows were filled with worry. Finally, as the terrifying storm gradually dissipated, a figure finally appeared before everyone's eyes. The figure's clothes were torn, revealing his bronze-colored skin. He stood there like a god of war. Old Yi, Yang Tian cried tears of joy when he saw Yi Chen's face clearly. He almost pounced on him. How is this possible? Jiang Shengwu and the rest were shocked. They looked back and forth for Huang Fuyu. Finally, they saw a broken body less than 300 meters away from Yi Chen. Although it was a body, it did not look like a human anymore. Its entire body was like charcoal, emitting a foul stench. He dead. At that moment, Jiang Shengwu and the rest almost fainted. Yi Chen stared at the broken body in the distance. After taking a deep breath in, he walked toward the broken body step by step. He was not sure if Huang Fuyu was dead. Just as he was about to approach the broken body, a dark light suddenly shot out from it and flew into the distance. He's really not dead. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. He turned into a huge hand and attacked directly. He wanted to destroy the dark light. However, as soon as his hand came into contact with the black light, a burst of power that surpassed the spatial tempering stage suddenly erupted from within the black light. Boom! Yi Chen was sent flying heavily. At the same time, a cackle came to his ears. Human brat, you're ruthless. However, you're dreaming if you want to kill this brat under my nose. Demon King. Yi Chen took a deep breath in. Within a few breaths of time, the dark light disappeared before everyone's eyes. It was impossible to chase after it. Yang Tian hurried forward to help him up. Old Yi, are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and sighed softly. It's a pity that Huang Fuyu got away. It's not your fault. The Patriarch of Hell shook his head and said with a solemn expression, if I'm not wrong, there's a demon king residing in Huang Fuyu's body. That's why I cast the enlightenment method on him. It's easy to kill him, but if you want to kill him, you'll have to step into the soul-splitting stage. This guy is really an unkillable cockroach. This brat has always been low-key. How did he suddenly become like this? Yang Tian was puzzled. I think something happened after we entered this place. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He then turned around and looked at Tribulation and Saint Lord Sayu who were fighting. Not far behind them, a divine lotus was shining brightly. Chapter 16:20. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Flames enveloped Yi Chen's palm like a tidal wave and surged into his body continuously as if they wanted to destroy his meridians. Your attack is useless against me. Yi Chen smiled faintly as he looked at the colorful divine lotus that was resisting in his palm. It was the five-element heavenly lotus. Even with Yi Chen's calm temperament, he could not help but feel excited when he saw what he had been looking for at such a close distance. With the five-element heavenly lotus in hand, he could start refining the longevity pill for Su Yuhan. In that case, Su Yuhan's injuries could be cured. Although it was a longevity pill, it did not mean that it had the effect of increasing one's cultivation base by 10,000 years. It was just that this pill could defy the heavens and change one's fate, breaking through one's body's resistance and extending one's life for 500 years. Therefore, it was called the longevity pill. Yi Chen waved his hand and forcefully put away the five-element heavenly lotus in his hand. He then threw it into the distance slowly. Their two golden skeletons were still fighting fiercely. They were Tribulation and Sage Lord Triu. Both of them were the most powerful undead creatures in this world. The only way to advance was to devour each other's soul fire. Yi Chen wanted to help Tribulation by instinct. To his surprise, the latter seemed to have sensed his thoughts and said, "There's no need to help me. This is a fated battle between me and him." Yi Chen was slightly stunned when he heard that. He could only give up and look at Jiang Shengwu and the rest who were trembling at the side. Meeting his gaze, Jiang Shengwu's heart sank. He could not help but say, "Fellow Yi, there's no life and death grudge between us." He knew very well that since Yi Chen could kill the demonized Huang Fuyu, it meant that he could not fight against him. Moreover, the death of the heavenly jade Holy Lord had shattered the last line of defense in his heart. Bullsh asterisk T. Yang Tian smirked coldly. Yi Chen stared at him coldly. Tell me, why did Huang Fuyu become like that? Twice. Huang Fuyu had escaped from him twice in a row, which made him feel a sense of danger. Jiang Xingwu's expression changed slightly. Do you still remember the five-colored glazed fruit? Of course. Yichen nodded lightly. The five-colored glazed fruit is a trap. Jiang Shengwu seemed to be terrified as he said, "This is a trap set by a demon king hiding here. After we consumed it, we were planted with a demon seed and lost control of our bodies." Huang Fuyu didn't take it. At this point, he smiled bitterly and said, "This kid is extremely cunning. I don't know how he saw that there was something wrong with the five-colored glazed fruit, so he escaped. Later on, a demon king appeared and took control of us. He killed off all the other cultivators there, leaving only Huang Fuyu alive." Yi Chen's eyes turned grim when he heard that. Why did he leave Huang Fuyu alone? I'm not too sure about that either. Jiang Shengwu shook his head slightly and said, "But I heard that the Demon King said that he wanted to summon some big shot to this world." A big shot? Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Could it be the Demon Emperor? And Huang Fuyu was the cauldron prepared by this Devil King for that great figure. His goal was to allow that great figure to successfully descend into this world. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. If the Demon King were to descend, even if it was only a clone, it would be enough to destroy this world. Forget it. He shook his head and looked at everyone. It's time for us to go back. What should we do with this guy? Yang Tian glanced at Jiang Shengwu. Yichen looked at Ying with a faint smile. Should I leave this guy to you? Sure. Ying's expression was indifferent. Let's go. Yichen did not hesitate anymore. With a wave of his sleeve, he carried everyone and ran toward the exit of the secret zone. He could vaguely hear the sounds of a great battle coming from behind him. Outside the Yin ruins, above the corpse sea, Yichen looked around and could not help but look at Yu Taiyuan, Lei Yunzi, and the rest. Guys, I have something to do and have to return to Earth. Let's part ways again. Fellow Yi, if you're back, why don't you come to our mermaid tribe? Yu Taiyuan stroked his beard and smiled. Then he looked at Yang Tan. Unfilial son, you should go back too. After all, that's your homeland. Yang Tian nodded heavily. He had been in Yin ruins longer than Yichen. It would be a lie to say that he did not miss Earth. After all, there were many memories there. Fellow Yi, Lei Yunzi said slowly, with Huang Fuyu's death, the Mad Extermination Alliance has collapsed instantly. I'll return to the Yin Huang Fortress to unify the 8 Xinyuan clans. Don't worry, when you return, you'll definitely see a different situation. Then I'll congratulate you in advance. The few of them cupped their fists towards each other. Soon after, their figures flashed as they flew in different directions. Yang Tian was among them. Not long after, Yichen waved his hand heavily after Yang Tian brought Yang Hao back. Let's go back to Earth. He was rather excited. He had been in Yin ruins for half a month and experienced many things. Now, he had finally found the 5-element heavenly lotus that could extend Su Yuhan's life. Now, he could finally return to Earth to see Su Yuhan, his parents, and his son and daughter. At the same time, in Baiyu, China, in the depths of General Mountain, a magnificent military forbidden area stood. It was a base built by China to guard the entrance of Yin ruins. At the core of the base, there was a huge stone door that was trembling violently. Boom! With a loud bang, the huge stone door slowly opened. One could vaguely see that the world inside the stone door was like a galaxy. The commotion immediately alarmed the guards, and the entire base immediately sounded the alarm. In just a few breaths of time, countless figures with surging auras gathered in front of the stone door. The leader was an old man in a green robe, holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. The old man had a sage-like demeanor and a kind expression. Fellow Feng Chun, the Yin Ruins passage is moving so violently. I think someone is coming out. Behind him, an old monk in a kasaya held prayer beads in his hand and said with a solemn expression, "But why haven't we received any messages from Yin Ruins? Don't be careless." The Taoist called Feng Chun took a deep breath in and stared at the stone door that was moving more and more. Everyone, prepare for battle. Although the living beings in Yin Ruins could not escape to the outside world, they did not dare to be careless when they did not know who the enemy was. After all, Their duty was to guard the Een ruins passage and not let the existence inside endanger the outside world. Buzz. At that moment, the black hole behind the stone door trembled, and a young man in green slowly walked out. There were countless figures behind him. I'm finally back. Yichen could not help but sigh as soon as he came out. After seeing his face clearly, Feng Chunzi and the rest were stunned at first. Then they knelt on one knee. Greetings, Heavenly Lord Yi. Chapter 16:21. Greetings, Heavenly Lord Yi. A thunderous voice reverberated through the entire void. Everyone, including Feng Chunzi, had respect in their eyes. Although they had never entered Yinsu before, they knew many things about it, especially Yi Chen's battle record of killing a few void refinement almighties outside the desolate god's tomb. When news of it spread to the outside world a few days ago, it shook the entire China. Countless people who wanted to cause trouble while Yi Chen was away were scared to death. They were secretly relieved. Everyone, please rise. Yi Chen lifted his hand. An irresistible force made everyone stand up uncontrollably. Such a simple action made everyone look even more respectful, especially those who had doubts about Yi Chen's battle record. They were completely convinced now. Heavenly Lord Yi. Feng Chunzi took a step forward and introduced himself. I'm Feng Chunzi, the current highest-ranking person in charge of this military base. Thank you for your hard work, fellow Feng Chen. Yi Chen glanced around and nodded lightly. He said, I still have something important to attend to. Please forgive me for not being able to catch up with you guys. Now that he had obtained the 5-element Heaven Lotus, his top priority was to return to the Yi family and save Su Yuhan. However, Feng Chunzi seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. He hesitated and said, Are you returning to the Yi family in Tiannan? Heavenly Lord Yi? That's right. Yi Chen nodded lightly. He realized that something was wrong with his expression. He could not help but say by instinct, Did something happen to my family? At this point, the entire hall instantly turned cold. Even though Yi Chen did not release his killing intent, the pressure still caused everyone's expression to change. Yang Tan, who was behind Yi Chen, became nervous. Ox-nose, did something happen to the Yi family? Feng Chunzi, he shook his head slightly when he met their gazes. No, you've misunderstood me. Nothing happened to the Yi family. There's just something wrong. What's wrong? The old man was stammering. If not for the fact that he was one of them, Yi Chen would have performed the soul-searching tactic on him directly. Feng Chunzi took a deep breath in and told them everything that had happened to the Yi family when Yi Chen was not around. It turned out that in the 10 days after Yi Chen entered Yinsu, the Yi family had been peaceful. In the next few days, countless outsiders discovered that the Yi family had sealed the entrance and did not allow anyone to enter. The strangest thing was that the entire Yi clan was wrapped in a cloud of black gas. The black gas was extremely cold. Even a cultivator who had cultivated for a long time would not be able to hold on for 10 minutes. Apart from that, the sky above Nine Dragons Bay was filled with crows. It was as if all the crows in the world had gathered here and could not be dispersed no matter what. Regarding this, the outside world was in an uproar. Some people said that the Yi clan was haunted, while others said that the Yi clan was cultivating some kind of evil technique, causing everyone to panic. Black gas. Yi Chen's eyes flashed when he heard that. Could it be demonic energy? But how did the devil Qi enter the secular world? Seeing that Feng Chunzi did not know anything, he decided to give up. With a sway of his body, he disappeared. At the same time, Tiannan Lin City Yi family. It was daytime at the moment, but the sky above Nine Dragons Bay was dark as if it was wrapped in dark clouds. Upon closer inspection, they were crows. These crows were circling above the Yi family's residence at that moment, cawing nonstop as if there was some fatal attraction. Trade wind literature network within the Yi family's residence. The entire Yi family villa seemed to have turned into a world of black gas. The hidden power caused nothing to grow within a kilometer of the Yi family villa. Everyone from the Yi family moved out of the Yi family villa and lived in a hut too, 5 kilometers away from the Yi family villa, under the withered tree. An old Taoist priest dressed in sloppy clothes was drinking wine while trying to persuade her. Young mistress, your surname is Tantai. You're the young mistress of the Tantai family, one of the 12 Archean foreign tribes. You were severely injured by the enemy and ended up in this world. In front of him was a lady in red. The lady's eyes were empty, and she stood still like a ghost. Only when the sloppy old Taoist priest mentioned some keywords occasionally would her old-fashioned gaze change slightly. Then, it would become extremely empty again. Sigh, it's too difficult. It's really too difficult for me. Seeing this scene, the sloppy old Taoist priest's face darkened. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. He could not help but subconsciously pick up the gourd on the table to drink a mouthful of wine. However, the wine in the gourd was already finished. He shook it a few times and immediately said, "Layman Yerm, there's no more wine." "Grandpa Taoist priest, wine, your wine." At that moment, a crisp voice came from afar. Then a girl about 6 or 7 years old ran over quickly with a gourd in her hands. Behind the little girl was a little boy about 4 or 5 years old and a little girl about 7 or 8 years old. The little boy looked very strong, and he walked as if he was flying. His facial features were 30 to 40% similar to the little girl's. Meanwhile, the little girl's expression was extremely determined. The sloppy old Taoist priest immediately beamed with joy. He reached out to take the gourd in the little girl's hands. "Ming Ming is still the best. You know that Grandpa Taoist priest likes to drink the wine that your grandpa brewed." Who would have thought that the little girl would hide the gourd behind her and pout? "Grandpa Taoist priest, look at how he came all the way here to deliver wine to you. Don't you have anything to say?" "You little girl." The sloppy old Taoist priest's smile froze. Then he painfully took out a pill and handed it over here. It was not the first time that such a scene had happened. Every time, the little girl would eagerly deliver wine to him in exchange for some benefits. Only one? The little girl became more and more unhappy. "Where are my brother and sister Qianqian?" "Brother and sister Qianqian don't have any. They will cry." Behind her, the little brother scratched his head and smiled. "I'm afraid of you." The sloppy old Taoist priest's mouth twitched slightly. He forcibly took out 2 more pills and handed them over. "This should be fine, right?" Only then did the little girl hand over the gourd full of wine to him. At that moment, Yihai walked over from afar and scolded with a straight face. "Ming Ming, don't ask your grandpa Taoist priest for food every other day." The little girl nodded and immediately called out to the 2 little fellows behind her to run far away, as if they were children who had done something wrong. "Greetings, Taoist priest." Yihai nodded at the sloppy old Taoist priest. He then lifted his head to look at the Yi family's villa that was covered in black energy far away. He mumbled, "Taoist priest, how long do you think it will take for Yuhan to come out?" "It's hard to say." The sloppy old Taoist priest wiped his mouth with his sleeve and said in a muffled voice, "That girl doesn't have much vitality left. If not for the nether energy that has been sustaining her life, I'm afraid she would have died a long time ago." Chapter 16:22. Before Yihai could react, the sloppy old Taoist priest put down the wine gourd and disappeared from where he was. Did something happen? Yihai's expression changed slightly as he followed immediately. At the same time, outside the Yi family villa, a few figures stood in the air, looking at the crows that covered the sky and the monstrous black energy with serious expressions. It was Yi Chun and the rest. The patriarch of Hell's pupils constricted as he inhaled sharply. What powerful nether energy. However, why would there be such terrifying nether energy in the secular world? Be it demonic energy or nether energy, I'll destroy everything that dares to invade my family. Yi Chen's eyes were cold. He did not expect such a huge change to happen in his family when he went out. He only hoped that his parents, Yuhan, and the rest were fine. Just when he was about to attack, a cursing voice suddenly came from the thick black energy. "Which blind guy dares to trespass here?" As soon as the voice was heard, the thick fog before Yi Chun and the rest was gradually split into 2. Subsequently, an old Taoist priest with a rosacea nose who was dressed sloppily ran out. The old Taoist priest rolled up his sleeves as if he was going to fight. The sloppy old Taoist priest was shocked when he saw Yi Chun and the rest clearly. "Oh my, there are so many people this time. Although he said that, his eyes could not help but flicker. Therefore, he realized that Yi Chun, Yang Tian, and the Patriarch of Hell were all on void refinement. Especially the pressure that Yi Chun was exuding intentionally or unintentionally, it made him feel bone-piercing. Oh my, I really can't underestimate this abandoned planet. There's actually such a young master rank. 3 Almighty, he mumbled to himself. Yi Chun stared at him fixedly. Who are you? Perfected void refinement. In the secular world outside of Insu, especially his own family, there was a perfected void refinement cultivator. At the same time, Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell sensed how extraordinary the sloppy old Taoist priest was. They were secretly prepared to attack. It doesn't matter who I am. The sloppy old Taoist rubbed his feet and subconsciously wanted a drink, but he realized that he did not bring any wine with him. He coughed and said, "The important thing is that this is not a place for you to barge in. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Don't force me to make a move." Old man, you're quite arrogant in our territory, huh? Yang Tian was enraged. He rolled up his sleeves and roared, "Old ancestor, go NF CK him up." The old ancestor Yellow Spring narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. Just when he was about to attack, he heard a surprised voice from the black mist. "Little Chun." Yi Chun's eyes flashed, and he looked toward the source of the voice. He saw a familiar figure walking out of the dark house. It was Yi. Yi Chun went forward to hold him immediately. "Dad, Uncle," Yang Tian also called out. Seeing this scene, the sloppy old Taoist was instantly stunned. After all this time, it turned out that they were on the same side? "Little Chun, don't be rash. This is a misunderstanding." Yi nodded and introduced the scruffy old Taoist. "This is heaven-stepping Taoist, a friend of the Yi family. Don't be rude." "Huh?" Yang Tian was dumbfounded. Even Yi Chun was stunned. This perfect stage void refinement cultivator before him was a friend of the Yi family? Yi ignored him and introduced him to heaven-stepping Taoist directly. "Taoist, this is my son, Yi Chun." The scruffy old Taoist coughed a few times and said with an awkward smile, "Since we're on the same side, that's for the best. Greetings, fellow stepping heaven." Yi Chun clasped his fists at him. Yi said, "It's not convenient to talk here. Let's go in first." As they passed through the dense nether energy barrier, Yi Chun could not help but say, "Dad, what happened to our family?" "Something happened to Yuan." Yi Chun's expression changed when he heard what Yi said. He added immediately, "But she's fine for now. Don't worry too much." Subsequently, he slowly told him what happened to the Yi family. It turned out that after Yi Chun went to Insu, Ming Ming and the rest of the children were playing in the courtyard. She picked up a black box from somewhere and brought it home. After the black box fell into Su Yuhan's hands, something happened. First, the black box turned into a huge black umbrella that covered the Yi family villa. Then, countless black energy appeared out of thin air and covered the entire Yi family villa. Su Yuhan's old face began to recover rapidly. The black box turned into a big black umbrella? Yi Chun was extremely shocked after hearing that. Yi nodded repeatedly. "That black box seems to understand humans. It didn't hurt us. Moreover, it seemed to listen to Yuhan and let us out. Then, it protected Yuhan until now." Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were stunned. At that moment, Heaven-stepping heaven said, "Fellow Yi, have you heard of the mysterious netherworld treasure?" Yi Chun's expression changed when he heard that. The mysterious netherworld treasure was the most powerful treasure in the netherworld. It was comparable to a supreme, immortal artifact. All of them were in the hands of the netherworld's supreme powerhouses. They could unleash destructive power. He could not help but look at heaven-stepping heaven as he thought to this point. Are you saying that the black box is the mysterious netherworld treasure? I'm not sure. Heaven-stepping heaven shook his head slightly. The demonic power that the black box displayed is extremely similar to the legendary mysterious netherworld treasure, but I've never seen it before. At this point, he shook his head again. Moreover, the mysterious netherworld treasure exists in the netherworld. Why would it appear in this world? However, your wife's body is a little special. He glanced at Yi Chun. She has the special trait of having a pure Een body that's rare in 10,000 years. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much life left. If not for that black umbrella nourishing her body with extremely pure nether energy, I'm afraid she wouldn't have been able to last until you returned. Soon, they passed through the dense, dark house. Yichen scanned with his divine consciousness and immediately saw the Yi family villa that was covered in nether energy. With his golden-eye fiery eyes, he saw that the Yi family villa was covered by a huge black umbrella. The black umbrella was extremely mysterious and ancient. It faintly emitted an aura that made Yi Chen's heart palpitate. Yuhan, he shouted and flashed toward the Yi family's villa. Master Taishan's expression immediately changed. Don't get close to it. Boom! Before he could finish speaking, the big black umbrella suddenly shook violently. Subsequently, a terrifying force whizzed toward Yi Chun. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Even though Yi Chun was prepared, he still could not control himself and retreated dozens of meters under such power. He said with a cold gaze, I don't care who you are. If you stop me today, don't blame me for being rude. At that moment, an extremely surprised voice came from the villa. Xiaoling, don't do anything rash. Let Xiaochen in. Mommy, is he your man? Subsequently, an extremely young voice was heard. He's so ugly. He doesn't deserve you at all. Chapter 16:23. You're so ugly. You don't deserve me at all. Everyone, including Yi Chun, was shocked as soon as the extremely young voice was heard. Holy sh*t, this big black umbrella can talk? Is it a spirit? Yang Tian's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. You're the big black umbrella. You're the real one. That childish voice sounded again. It seemed to be somewhat angry from embarrassment, but it also made people unable to restrain their laughter. Su Yuhan's voice came from the villa again. Xiaoling, listen to me. Let Xiaochen in. Mommy, I know. The big black umbrella responded unwillingly. It then retracted its wings slowly and tore a gap. Only you're allowed to come in. Nobody else is allowed to come in. Otherwise, I won't go easy on you. Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and he took a step in. His gaze was attracted by a gigantic black lotus that was hovering on the ground in the house. At that moment, Su Yuhan was sitting in the black lotus. Her white hair had turned black like a waterfall. Even her clothes were black. Yi Chen walked over by instinct and held her hand tightly. Yuhan, are you all right? Xiaochen, I'm fine. Su Yuhan looked at him excitedly. She looked much better than before. I thought it would be a while before I came back. Yi Chen secretly transferred some spiritual power to check on her injuries. He realized that she had recovered a lot. Although it was not comparable to an ordinary person, it was much better than before. What exactly happened? He secretly heaved a sigh of relief and asked while frowning. Su Yuhan smiled lightly and looked at the big black umbrella that covered the villa. She said, it's all thanks to Xiaoling. Xiaoling prolonged my life. Who is Xiaoling? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Su Yuhan shook her head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry upon hearing that. She said, Xiaoling said she was my weapon in my previous life. She called me mommy as soon as she saw me. I really couldn't resist her. She was my mommy. Xiaoling's childish voice was heard again. Mommy, you were very powerful in your previous life. You could kill this guy with a single breath. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Yi Chen moved and could not help but shake his head lightly. Clearly, Su Yuhan, who was once the lord of the underworld, had finally awakened. The weapon that was in charge of her previous life would not find her by chance. However, for some unknown reason, the more this was the case, the more he didn't want it to be like this. He would rather his woman be an ordinary woman, and not the lord of the netherworld or the Azura king. Little Ling, don't say such things to Lil Chun. Su Yuhan's expression turned cold. She was rather upset. Lil Chun is the best man in my life. If you respect me, you have to respect him. Yes, Mom. Little Ling knows she's wrong. Little Ling's tone was stifled, and she felt very wronged. Yi Chen looked at Su Yuhan with a complicated expression. Yuhan, have you recalled your past life's memory? Meeting his gaze, Su Yuhan was stunned at first. She subsequently shook her head and said, I can't remember. Xiaoling told me these few days, but I can't remember. That's good. Yi Chun heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. If Su Yuhan were to awaken the Lord of the Netherworld's memory, it would be hard to say if Su Yuhan's consciousness would be in control or the Lord of the Netherworld's consciousness would be in control. Seeming to sense his worry, Su Yuhan suddenly held his hand and said in extreme seriousness, "Don't worry, Xiaochun. No matter what I become, I'll always be Su Yuhan." "Sure." Yi Chun nodded hard. "Mom, it's time to rest." Little Ling could not help but urge, "Don't talk too much. Otherwise, you'll waste too much energy. Get him out now." Yi Chun could tell that Su Yuhan was rather tired, so he could not help but say, "Yuhan, take a rest first. I brought something that can prolong your life. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." He got up and walked out immediately after saying that. In Nine Dragons Bay, Yi Chun and Taoist priest Tatian sat across each other. There was a lady in red with lifeless eyes standing before them. Meanwhile, a little girl was snuggling in Yi Chun's embrace. The little girl hugged Yi Chun's neck and extended her arm to pull his beard. "Daddy, you're finally back. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Did you miss Daddy?" Yi Chun could not help but kiss her cheek. He had to admit that the little girl had changed a lot even though it had only been half a month since they last met. First, her cultivation base had entered mastery stage nascent soul. Secondly, she was even more beautiful now. She was a real beauty. "I did." The little girl could not stop nodding. Yi Chun then glanced at the silly boy who was standing aside and looking at him suspiciously. He said, "You brat, don't you recognize Daddy anymore?" It was Yi Ming. It had been almost 2 months since the little girl was born. Due to the fact that she was born with extraordinary conditions and had a good living condition, she looked no different from a 3-year-old, even though she was not even a year old. She looked like a tiger. At that moment, she was peeking at Yi Chun from afar secretly. She seemed to be afraid of him. "Unfilial son, get over here now." Yi Chun was furious. He sucked through the air and grabbed the little girl while ignoring her resistance. The little fellow was forced into a corner and actually bit down on his hand. Smack! Yi Chun slapped his buttocks. His attitude toward his daughter and son was completely different. He owed his daughter, Meng Meng, too much. Since she was mature and sensible, he would spoil her as much as he could. However, his son, Yi Ming, was different. He had been living in Su Yuhan's room for so long. One could say that he was the reason why Su Yuhan ended up like this. The little girl cried immediately. His mother, Wulan, came over when she heard the crying. She glared at Yi Chun. "You're bullying your son as soon as you come back. You're really something." Yi Chun smiled awkwardly. His mother carried her grandson and walked far away. She tried to comfort him. Yi Chun could not help but glance at Hong Xiu, who was not moving at all. He said to Taoist Master Tatian, "Fellow Tatian, did you say that Hong Xiu is your family's young mistress?" From Yi Hai's description, he roughly knew that the patriarch of Tatian had come to take Hong Xiu away when he was not in the Yi family. However, Hong Xiu only listened to Yi Chun and Meng Ming's orders. Naturally, she ignored what the others said. Helpless, Taoist Master Tatian could only stay in the Yi residence. Although he was a cultivator at peak void refinement, he did not put on airs. His only hobby was drinking. Meanwhile, Yi Hai had nothing to do, so he planted many fruit trees in Nine Dragons Bay. He had figured out a supreme-grade wine brewing method on his own. That's right. Taoist Master Tatian took a sip of the wine and nodded lightly. "I believe, fellow, ye can tell that I'm not from this world." Chapter 16:24. Yi Chun nodded lightly. Taoist Master Tatian said slowly, "To be honest, I'm from a foreign land. Thousands of years ago, my clan's young mistress went missing. The clan ordered me to look for her. I've been many places, but I didn't expect to find the young mistress in this starfield. Perhaps this is what it means to wear out iron shoes in vain." He sighed as he spoke to this point. Yi Chun frowned slightly. "Since you're the clan's young mistress, why did you appear in this world and become like this?" Hong Xiu had drifted down from the Moon Palace after the spiritual energy recovery on Earth. At that time, she had been sealed in an ice coffin. Although she had woken up later on, she had no consciousness and was no different from a puppet. "I'd like to know, too." Taoist Master Titian could not help but shake his head and squint slightly. I can only help the young mistress recover her consciousness and bring her back to the clan. He clasped his fists at Yi Chun as he spoke to this point. So, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you in the Yi residence. That's nothing. You can stay as long as you want. If you need my help, I'm willing to do whatever I can. Yi Chun shook his head and smiled. Taoist Master Tatian, who was at peak void refinement, addressed Hong Xiu as young mistress. From this, it could be seen that his background was extraordinary. It was naturally worth it to befriend such a person. Moreover, he was not worried that Taoist Master Tatian would attack the Yi family while he was away. After all, Hong Xiu only listened to him and Meng Meng. All right, fellow Yi. Taoist Master Tatian seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said coldly, I noticed that the young mistress has been refined as a zombie. May I ask who it was? There was a hint of killing intent between his brows. It's the Gu family. Yi Chun was slightly stunned. He then told him what happened, including how the Gu family controlled Hong Xiu and tried to kill him. I see. Taoist Master Tatian narrowed his eyes and said with a cold smirk, A mere Gu family dares to be so bold? I'll remember this. In the secret chamber of the Yi residence, after Yi Chun lifted his hand to set up the formation, he waved his sleeve. A dazzling divine item shot out of his storage ring. As soon as the divine object appeared, it tried to escape. However, it crashed heavily into the formation barrier and bounced back again. Then, it turned into a snow-white little beast that bared its teeth at Yi Chun. It was the Five Elements Heavenly Lotus. This fellow is quite cunning. Yi Chun pointed a finger and controlled it. His eyes were like rainbows as he said, It's a pity that I went through so much trouble to obtain it. How can I let you escape so easily? If you know what's good for you, then listen obediently. I might leave behind your spirit root and nurture it. Who knows, maybe one day you'll be reborn. Yi Chun said confidently while looking at it. With a command in his heart, an enormous cauldron appeared in front of him. The cauldron was inscribed with ancient divine runes. It was a shaman cauldron. I'm afraid my current true origin energy cultivation base isn't enough to refine the longevity pill this time. I'll need the help of the shaman cauldron. Yi Chun's eyes flashed. He waved his sleeve again, and dense medicinal herbs surged out of his storage ring continuously. They hovered above him. Judging by the number, there were probably no less than 100 types. The moment these medicinal herbs appeared, the entire secret chamber was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. Clearly, these medicinal herbs were not ordinary. Only an existence like the longevity pill would require so many medicinal ingredients. Yi Chun opened his mouth and spat. A golden flame whizzed out immediately. The golden flame split into 9 and shot into the 9 vents of the shaman cauldron, releasing a shocking temperature. Everything's ready. Let's begin. He took a deep breath in and pushed his energy to its peak. A bright light exploded in his eyes, and he grabbed at the air with both hands. The hundreds of medicinal herbs were thrown into the shaman cauldron in an orderly manner. As soon as these medicinal herbs were thrown into the shaman cauldron, the 9 fire dragons in the cauldron roared and swallowed them in one gulp. The flames on their bodies became even more glaring. Without hesitation, Yi Chun split his divine telekinesis into 9 and enveloped the medicinal herbs. He controlled the 9 fire dragons to begin refining the medicinal properties. At the same time, outside the secret chamber, Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were on high alert. They focused on guarding Yi Chun's secret chamber to prevent any accidents from happening. Refining medicinal pills required concentration, and it was taboo to be disturbed by external forces, especially when it came to something like the longevity pill that had an extremely low success rate. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Taoist Master Tatian chose to retreat far away. After all, he was an outsider after all, and he knew that Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were guarding against him. The longevity pill. Tatian stayed in the clouds, drinking as he looked down and mumbled, This medicinal pill has a very strict requirement for the density of true origin energy. If this brat doesn't enter the divine separation stage, what's the difference between succeeding and ascending to heaven? in a Yi family villa that was shrouded by the big black umbrella. Xiaoling was also paying attention to the direction of Yi Chen's secret chamber. She could not help but say, "Mommy, do you think that guy will succeed? After all, the longevity pill isn't something that anyone can refine." "I believe that Xiaochen will succeed," Su Yuhan smiled lightly. Su Yuhan smiled faintly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with deep trust and happiness. Time passed bit by bit. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The secret chamber where Yi Chen was still extremely quiet. On the 3rd day, the true origin energy above the Yi family villa suddenly became a little violent. Under the violent energy of heaven and earth, a rich pill fragrance spread out, causing everyone to feel 100 times more energetic. Everyone was overjoyed when they sensed the change. Is he going to succeed? The Patriarch of Heaven, in particular, had a look of disbelief on his face. This is a sign of pill formation. This brat didn't enter the divine separation stage, but he managed to persevere to this stage. His true origin energy and divine consciousness are actually so condensed. Fuse. At the same time, Yi Chen's expression remained the same in the secret chamber. He did not dare to relax at all, even though a medicinal pill was gradually taking shape before him. After a long period of refinement, his spiritual power had already reached a state of exhaustion, and his face was slightly pale. As he mumbled, incomparably mysterious hand seals were formed one after another. All of his divine consciousness suppressed the medicinal pill that was about to dissipate, and the medicinal power fused with it. Boom! At that moment, an extremely dazzling white light shot out from the witch cauldron. It shot into the sky like a pillar of light that supported the sky. At the same time, the medicinal fragrance that enveloped heaven and earth became extremely dense. The fusion is a success. Everyone's faces were filled with ecstasy. The Patriarch of Heaven took a deep breath in. Amazing. You've done everything that I can't. The next step is to form a pill. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly looked at the end of the sky as if he had sensed something. There were several powerful auras rushing over. Chapter 16:25. At the same time, in the depths of the void less than 10 miles away from Nine Dragons Bay, 2 figures descended one after another. The deliberately restrained aura still caused the clouds to tremble. A white man with red hair and an evil smile looked at the burly man with blonde hair and blue eyes beside him with a serious expression. "Paul, you also felt that aura?" "My most respected Sir Carl." The blonde Carlo smiled and closed his eyes to savor the taste. "This smell is too wonderful. I suspect that the elixir mentioned in the Eastern myths is about to be born." "That's mine." Carl frowned slightly, as if he was not happy. "Sir Carl, you're being too absolute." Following a chuckle, an extremely handsome Western man wearing a trench coat appeared out of thin air. Deathwing Leonte. Carl and Paul's pupils constricted violently. Then, more figures descended in front of them one after another. Ruling Sword's leader, Whiskey. Ice and Fire Goddess, Evelyn. India's Living Buddha, Hadis. Carl and the others' expressions changed again and again. Among these people, there were some that Carl and the others did not know. However, without exception, they were all peerless powerhouses in the Western countries. Any one of them could shake the world with just a stomp of their feet. They didn't expect that they would all be gathered here today. My God, Carl's heart was going crazy. The world's 7 most terrifying transcendental existences have all descended. This is unbelievable, simply unbelievable. You guys came just in time. Emperor Paul smiled slightly. However, aren't you worried that the strongest powerhouses in the Chinese Holy Land will attack? The Chinese Holy Land, Su can't even take care of himself right now. How can he care about us? Ruling Sword's leader, Whiskey, raised his eyebrows. I was originally sleeping, but this elixir that is about to be born in the East woke me up. My intuition tells me that if I obtain this elixir, I will definitely be able to return to my peak. Then let's see who is more capable. The Ice and Fire Goddess Evelyn smiled coldly. The clouds under her feet instantly vaporized, and then immediately turned into an ice dragon at a speed visible to the naked eye. It actually carried her towards Nine Dragons Bay. The elixir is mine. I'll kill whoever dares to snatch it from me. India's lively Hades was compassionate. Behind him was a 15 or 16-year-old novice monk. The novice monk was an Asian. He did not say a word, but his gaze was extremely cold. When the others saw this, they no longer hesitated and turned into long streaks of light that shot out in an extremely high-profile manner. Above Nine Dragons Bay, the rich pill fragrance became even more alluring, shocking countless living beings in the surroundings. If it was not for the fact that they were afraid of the powerful auras of Heaven Trampler and the others, they might have lost control a long time ago. Heaven Tatian gazed at the sky in the distance. The expressions of Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell, who were guarding Yi Chun, changed slightly when they sensed his abnormality. Clearly, they realized something. You guys stand guard, I'll go meet them. At the critical moment, Heaven Trampler took a sip of wine, and then his body flashed before he vanished on the spot. Which thief dares to trespass this place? Hurry up and leave. Heaven Trampler shouted as he looked at the gigantic ice dragon that was charging at him. A loud thud was heard, and the gigantic ice dragon shattered. The goddess of ice and fire, Evelyn, who was above it, flew out with a low groan. She looked at Heaven Trampler with a serious expression after she finally stabilized herself. Eastern powerhouses, India's living Buddha, Hades, appeared immediately. He squinted at Heaven Trampler, and a solemn avatar rose faintly behind him. Karl, Emperor Paul, and the rest appeared at the same time. So, they're all Western powerhouses. Heaven Trampler came to a realization. He had traveled to Earth before when he was guarding the Yi family, so he knew Earth quite well. The only thing that made him frown was that among the 7 people before him, 3 of them were exuding auras that were on par with his. Esteemed Eastern powerhouses, Leonte, the Wings of Death, licked his lips and grinned evilly. We just sensed that there's a bloody disaster here, so we came to check it out to see if we can help you. A bloody disaster? The rest were stunned at first when they heard that. Then, they came back to their senses and secretly cursed Leonte for being shameless. It was supposed to be a treasure light rising into the sky, yet he said that it was a bloody disaster. That's right. Witsi, the leader of Ruling Sword, said kindly, "We have no ill intentions. Please let us go and take a look, sir. I've long heard that you Westerners are shameless. Now that I've seen it for myself, you really do live up to your reputation." Heaven Trampler smiled too. "There's no bloody disaster here, so I don't need your help. Please leave." "Sir, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me." India's living Buddha, Hades, shook his head slightly. As the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? Boom! The gigantic avatar behind him put its palms together like a golden Buddha. A terrifying pressure immediately attacked Heaven Trampler. "Attack! Kill this old man first." "Patriarch, there's a fight over there." Yang Tian, who was guarding Yi Chun, said with a slight change of expression, "Heaven Trampler is a perfect stage void refinement cultivator after all. It seems like he's not here with good intentions, since he's able to cause such a commotion. Don't worry about it for now." The Patriarch of Hell's eyes flickered as he said, "The most important task now is to ensure that fellow Yi successfully refines the longevity pill. Otherwise, all our previous efforts will be wasted." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his head. Boom! A muffled sound abruptly rang out in the sky. Endless thunderclouds gathered in that direction, enveloping the entire sky above the Nine Dragons Bay within. The thunderclouds rumbled, vast and boundless. The entire sky seemed to have been split into countless pieces, and every single piece was covered in gorgeous colors. A shocking heavenly might was being emitted from them. My God! At that moment, the 7 people from the west who were fighting suddenly raised their heads. When they saw the phenomenon above them, they revealed shocked expressions. Pill lightning. Heaven Trampler's heart skipped a beat, and his expression finally changed. That brat actually succeeded. At the same time, countless people in Lin City witnessed this shocking scene. They were so shocked that they seemed to have turned into stone. Any one of the terrifying bolts of lightning in the sky would probably kill a large number of people. The world instantly fell into dead silence. Under everyone's gazes, the thunderclouds in the sky became denser and denser. In the end, just a trace of heavenly might was enough to make Heaven Trampler and the rest feel extremely pressured. Divine Pill. Heaven Trampler seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened as he mumbled, "Divine Pill, this is the talent of a divine pill." As soon as he finished speaking, his expression changed. Since ancient times, all those who achieved divine pills were top-notch alchemists whose names shook the cultivation world. This brat. Chapter 16:26. Divine Pill. Fellow Yi actually managed to refine a divine pill. He was not the only one. Even the Patriarch of Hell sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Yang Tian was shocked by the terror of the thunderclouds, he did not know what a divine pill was. He could not help but ask, "Patriarch, what is a divine pill?" A divine pill. The Patriarch of Hell revealed a yearning expression. It's an existence second only to an immortal pill. It has the effect of defying the heavens and changing one's fate. Usually, a single pill can cause a huge commotion in the cultivation world, defying the heavens and changing one's fate. Yang Tian was dumbfounded. "I'm more worried about how fellow Yi will survive this pill lightning." The Patriarch of Hell sighed faintly. Even a spirit-severing powerhouse wouldn't dare to take the pill lightning of a divine pill head-on. Although fellow Ye's physical body is powerful, at the same time, in the Yi family villa, at that moment, Su Yuhan sat up in shock. "Xiaoling, what's happening outside?" Although she could not see the outside world, she could still hear the majestic voice that sounded like the might of the heavens. Xiaoling was silent for a few seconds before saying with a complicated expression, "Mom, that guy managed to refine a divine pill." Su Yuhan was overjoyed. Did Xiaochen succeed? It's still early. Xiaoling could not help but say, "Mom, this divine pill can only be determined after being baptized by the pill lightning." However, even a spirit-severing powerhouse wouldn't dare to take the pill lightning head-on. "What?" Su Yuhan's pretty face changed. "Xiaoling, can you help Yi-Chen? I know you have a way." Although she did not want to part ways with Yi-Chen, it did not mean that she was willing to watch Yi-Chen endure so much danger for her. "Mom," Xiaoling wanted to say something but hesitated. "I can't help him. I just woke up not long ago, and my vitality hasn't recovered yet. Moreover, in order to extend your life, I've exhausted my remaining Xianming energy. Now, it's up to him." Rumble. Under the majestic heavenly might, Yi-Chen, who was sitting in the secret room, opened his eyes slowly. He glanced at the longevity pill that was as dazzling as the sun before him. He then slowly raised his head and looked through everything, staring straight at the violent thunderclouds in the sky. At the next moment, with a flick of his finger, the longevity pill shot straight up into the sky, as if he was ready to welcome the baptism of the terrifying thunderclouds. Even though a large portion of the pill lightning would be absorbed by the longevity pill, a portion of it would still dissipate, causing a destructive blow to everything around it. "Old ancestor, old Yang, retreat 10 miles away." After saying that, Yi-Chen took a step forward and soared into the sky. Thunderclouds hovered above his head as he stepped into the void. At this moment, countless gazes gathered on him. They felt that he was like a god. What is he doing? The 7 Western cultivators stared at his back in disbelief. Is he planning to take on this terrifying heavenly tribulation? Immortal pill. Someone glanced greedily at the longevity pill hovering above Yi-Chen's head. If they were not afraid of the pill thunder, they would have snatched it from him. Crazy, this kid must be crazy. Tatian shook his head. Even a soul-splitting grand cultivator would not be able to withstand the pill thunder. Crackle, with a loud bang, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the world as if it was daytime. Then, it landed ruthlessly on the longevity pill with a destructive force. "Pa!" After the longevity pill was enveloped by endless lightning, it trembled violently. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound, and a crack appeared on the surface of its body. It's broken. Yang Tian almost vomited blood when he saw that. He knew very well that Yi Chen had put in a lot of effort to refine this thing. Now it was broken? No. The Patriarch of Hell's pupils constricted as if he recalled something. He immediately said, "It's only the pill robe that's broken. The pill embryo is still intact." Boom! Another round of pill lightning struck down one after another. Under everyone's gaze, the crack grew larger and larger. In the end, it fell off automatically, revealing a red halo. From afar, it looked like a red sun was born from the lightning. It was extremely dazzling and resplendent. It's done. The Patriarch of Hell was overjoyed. Before everyone could react, a tall and straight figure actually took the initiative to meet the vast and mighty thunderclouds. As the thunderclouds churned, a five-colored bolt of lightning descended like a giant python, whistling toward the figure. This Easterner must be crazy. Someone among the 7 Western powerhouses shouted. However, in the next moment, the five-colored lightning did not cause any damage to Yi Chen's body after landing on him. Instead, it turned into lightning that flowed rapidly through his limbs and meridians. Eventually, it turned into a five-colored lightning pattern on the surface of Yi Chen's body. How is this possible? This time, even Heaven Trampler was startled. The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and mumbled, "Fellow Yi, are you absorbing the pill thunder to strengthen your already heaven-defying body?" In reality, he was only half right. Yi Chen was using the pill thunder to repair his body. After he fell from the immortal world to the mortal world, his body passed through the barrier of the 33 heavens and was severely injured. If he did not have a fortuitous encounter, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to recover. However, the terrifying pill thunder that even spirit-severing almighties were afraid of was perfect. The pill thunder would reactivate the potential of his body. Boom, boom, boom. The gorgeous lightning was like a roaring dragon. Bolts of lightning flew wildly and landed on Yi Chen, who was in the air. Everyone was in disbelief. How could a human's body be so strong that it was not afraid of heavenly lightning? As the silver lightning exploded on Yi Chen's body, it turned into countless lightning snakes that entered his body through the pores all over his body. They quickly healed his injured body. The scene lasted for an hour before it dissipated. In the end, everyone was surprised to discover that Yi Chen's body was covered in dense lightning patterns. The lightning patterns were like lightning that was sealed in his body. It seemed like they could explode at any time. On the other hand, every piece of bronze-colored skin seemed to have accumulated enough power to destroy the world. It was terrifying. I finally recovered to a low-grade god body. Yi Chen's body, which had not moved for a long time, finally swayed. His eyes were like lightning as he said in a carefree manner, "Low-grade god body. With just my physical body, I can even fight against the spirit-severing stage cultivator." Above the god body was the immortal body. At his peak, his physical body was known as the indestructible immortal body. Now that he had recovered to a low-grade body, he was not far from an immortal body. At this moment, an urgent voice suddenly sounded, "Attack!" At the next moment, several figures with powerful auras attacked at the same time. With lightning speed, they charged towards the longevity pill in the air. End of this chapter. Chapter 16:27. Boom! As the cold voice fell, the entire place was suddenly covered by an extremely sharp, whistling sound. Rumble! At that moment, the 7 Western powerhouses finally could not help but attack. They attacked Yi Chen together. They wanted to snatch the longevity pill. To them, although Yi Chen was fine after bathing in the pill lightning, he was probably at the end of his rope. "You're courting death." The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and shouted, "So you want to snatch the longevity pill? You really don't know what's good for you." He was about to attack after saying that. "Patriarch, you guys retreat." At the right time, Yi Chen's voice was heard slowly. His eyes shot into the sky and captured the 7 people's whereabouts. I'll use you guys to test my physical body today." He smiled faintly. In the next moment, he took a step forward and shot into the sky like a rocket. With a resplendent glow, he charged at the living Buddha of India, Hadis, who was leading the group. "Ignorant Easterner, hand over the immortal pill, and I'll spare your life." The living Buddha of India, Hadis, lifted the glaring Vajra avatar into the sky. It closed its palms gently, and an earth-shattering Buddhist light charged at Yi Chun like thousands of sword gleams. Yi Chun placed his hands behind his back and ignored the attack directly. Subsequently, he slapped with his palm, and the giant golden palm smashed down. Boom! Under that palm, the living Buddha of India and the glaring Vajra avatar were forcefully shattered, turning into countless pieces of blood and broken bones that scattered everywhere. Under that palm, killing a peak void refinement cultivator. Seeing this scene, the pupils of the 6 Western people who were the last to fall constricted violently, and an endless chill rose in their hearts. Damn it, this person is so terrifying. The wings of death, Leonte, cursed softly with an ugly expression. A pair of golden wings suddenly grew on his back, and he turned around and ran without saying a word. Try to run. Just as he retreated, he was shocked to discover that the space beside him suddenly distorted violently. Then, he saw a terrifying fist mixed with lightning whistling over. Boom! Leonte screamed and was immediately smashed into meat paste by the punch. "It's a misunderstanding, Your Excellency Mad Southern Yi. This is a misunderstanding." Ruling Sword's leader, Witsi, was already scared out of his wits. He screamed in horror, "Let me go. I swear I'll never step into the East." "Cut the crap." Yi Chun looked cold. "You trespassed into China and tried to kill me. Today, I'll use your blood to shake the dignity of China." As soon as he finished speaking, he pressed his palm down. The space within a radius of 10,000 feet around Witsi had completely collapsed. Witsi's body was no longer there, and all that was left was a thick stench of blood. Another person died. The ice and fire goddess, Evelyn, was completely terrified. She screamed, "Mad Southern Yi, if you kill me, Greece won't let this go. Then we'll destroy Greece as well." Yi Chun slammed his palm down and destroyed his body on the spot. He took another step out and charged at the remaining 3 people. In just a few short breaths, the shrill screams died down, and all that was left was dead silence. At that moment, the world was incomparably silent. All that was left was a figure standing proudly in the void. He was dressed in black and had long hair. Divine light shone resplendently around him, making him look like a deity that had descended to the mortal world. "Monster! This guy is really a monster." Old Taoist Master Tetian, who was standing far away, had goosebumps all over his body. He cultivated his body to the inferior grade god body at such a young age. Even the so-called geniuses of the primordial tribes would pale in comparison to him, wouldn't they? He could not help but feel extremely lucky. He was lucky that he did not do anything to Yi Chun's family earlier. Otherwise, he might have died here today. "Thank you for protecting me, fellow Tatian." Yi Chun glanced at old Taoist Master Tatian and smiled lightly. He then turned around to look at the longevity pill that stood quietly in the air. There was a hint of passion in his eyes. It had been 3 days and 3 nights. The longevity pill was finally done. He grabbed the longevity pill from afar and slowly landed in front of the Yi residence's villa after grabbing it in his hand. This time, Xiaoling opened the entrance without Su Yuhan's instruction and let Yi Chun in. She had witnessed Yi Chun's potential in this battle. Therefore, she could not say anything more jealous. "Yuhan, I did it." Yi Chun walked to Su Yuhan quickly and handed the longevity pill in his hand to her. "Take it now. It can increase your lifespan by 500 years. Su Yuhan did not reach out to take it. Instead, she looked at him quietly for a while and suddenly threw herself into his embrace. "You almost scared me to death just now," I thought. Her delicate body trembled lightly. She could not bear to let go of Yi Chun, as if Yi Chun would leave her as soon as she let go. When the pill lightning had descended, she had learned from Xiaoling just how dangerous it was. I'm fine now." Yi Chun patted her back and said while smiling, I have such a beautiful wife and a pair of children. How could I bear to die? Puffed. Su Yuhan snickered. Although she knew that Yi Chun was comforting her, she still smiled sincerely and said, Thank you, Xiao Chen. Take the pill. I'll stand guard outside for you. Yi Chun stood up and walked out of the villa after saying that. Xiaoling closed the tunnel again. The Patriarch of Hell finally could not help but walk over and say, Fellow Yi, why do I feel that your body seems to have become stronger again? Yang Tian even reached out to feel his skin. Yi Chun slapped his perverted hand away and said while smiling, My body is comparable to a low-grade god body now. I can even fight a soul-splitting cultivator. Although old ancestor Yellow Spring was mentally prepared for this, he still could not help but gasp when he heard those words. Whoosh! At the same time, Taoist Master Tatian landed on the ground. However, he was carrying a young monk in his hand. The young monk was around 12 or 13 years old. He wore a black monk robe and had a scar on his head. He struggled with all his might. Let go of me, let go of me! Taoist Master Tatian threw the young monk to the ground. Fellow Yi, this brat has been sneaking around outside. I thought he was suspicious, so I captured him. Yi Chun lifted his head to look at the young monk. The smile on his face gradually froze, and it was soon replaced by surprise. He took a step forward and stared at the young monk. His voice was slightly hoarse as he said, Why you're Lin Xiao? The young man before him looked 70% similar to Lin Tai. If not for his young age, Yi Chun would have thought that Lin Tai had been resurrected. There could only be one explanation. He was Lin Tai's posthumous son, Lin Xiao. Yi Chun was the one who named him, but it was lost later on. He did not expect to be reunited like this. Yang Tian was stunned at first when he heard what Yi Chun said. He then said excitedly, He's Lin Tai's eldest son? After saying that, he immediately walked towards the young monk as if he wanted to pick him up and take a good look at him. Unexpectedly, the young monk took a few steps back in fear. Then, he looked at Yi Chun and Yang Tian with hatred. End of this chapter. Chapter 1628. Yi Chun secretly frowned. He saw hatred in Lin Zhao's eyes. It was an undisguised hatred as if he, Yi Chun, was the enemy who killed his father. Brat, what's wrong with your eyes? Yang Tian did not know what to do, so he forcefully grabbed him up and slapped his butt. Let me go. Lin Xiao struggled violently, his eyes filled with hatred. You guys kill my father. I'll never forgive you. Yang Tian's body froze when he heard that. Lin Xiao took the opportunity to struggle out of his embrace. He turned around and was about to run when the Patriarch of Hell stopped him. The Patriarch of Hell turned to look at Yi Chun. Fellow Yi, is this brat really Lin Tai's son? There's no mistake. Yi Chun nodded lightly and looked at Lin Xiao subsequently. To you, did we kill your father? Lin Xiao did not say a word and merely looked at him hatefully. Brat. Yang Tian suddenly gave him a slap and shouted angrily. Your father followed Old Yi all those years ago, and Old Yi never owed him anything. In the end, he betrayed Old Yi and almost caused Old Yi to lose his kin. Back then, when Shang Santian descended on the Yi residence, they could only capture Lin Tai's woman and threaten Lin Tai to open and destroy the formation because they were afraid of the formation that Yi Chun had set up. It was also because of this that Shang Santian charged straight in, catching the Yi family off guard and causing heavy losses. Although Lin Tai came to his senses and risked his life to protect the Yi family members as they escaped, Yi Chun's heart ached for a long time. Later on, Yi Chun summoned his soul back and nurtured it in the Fengdu ghost region. He wanted him to walk the path of a ghost cultivator. He did not expect Lin Xiao to treat him as the enemy who killed his father. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Lin Xiao only looked at him with incomparable hatred, as if he could not change his attitude. I'll beat you to death. Yang Tian pretended to hit him. Forget it. Yi Chun stopped him and picked Lin Xiao up. He walked into the secret chamber and said while looking at him, Do you miss your father? Lin Xiao looked at him and nodded in the end. He lost his parents as soon as he was born. Although Yi won and the rest took care of him, he ran away from home after finding out about what happened back then. He wandered to India and was taken in as a personal acolyte by India's living Buddha, Hadis. All right, Yichen lifted his hand to set up the gathering formation. Subsequently, he waved his sleeve, and a black shadow appeared in the secret room. The black silhouette gradually transformed into a pale-looking middle-aged man. It was Lin Tai who had turned into a ghost cultivator. Supreme Lord. Lin Tai knelt on one knee by instinct when he saw Yichen. He seemed to be excited. Yichen glanced at Lin Xiao next to him after helping him up. He said with a forced smile, "Look at who this is." In reality, even without his reminder, Lin Xiao had already noticed it. His young eyes were wide open as he looked at Lin Tai in disbelief. Meanwhile, Lin Tai looked at him by instinct. His body froze, and his lips were trembling. "Hi, Lord." He suddenly turned his head to look at Yichen and stammered, He's my... That's right. He's your child." Yichen nodded lightly and said, "After you died back then, your woman died too. Fortunately, we arrived in time and found the fetus in her stomach. We saved this child. I named him Lin Xiao personally and handed him over to Yuan and the rest to raise." At this point, he smiled and did not say anything else. Lin Tai could not hold it in anymore. He pounced over as if he wanted to hug Lin Xiao. Unfortunately, he was a ghost and had no physical form. He passed through Lin Xiao's body directly. When the father and son met, they were separated by yin and yang. It was inevitable that they would feel lonely. Yichen shook his head and flicked his finger. A spiritual energy seed landed on Lin Tai immediately. "You two can catch up. I won't disturb you guys anymore." After saying that, he walked out of the secret room and left the space for the father and son. Yang Tian could not help but welcome him when he saw him come out. He said rather guiltily, "Old Yi, he's a child after all. Don't be too." He was worried that Yichen would be angry. Yichen said in between tears and laughter, "What kind of person do you think I am? Are you a narrow-minded person? However, it's a blessing to be able to find this brat." Yang Tian grinned. "Other than Yo Shan, Old Chun, and the rest, all of us are about to reunite. Old Nyo and the rest must be growing up soon." Yichen lifted his eyes to look at the sky. He immediately sensed a few auras in the sky. He said while smiling sincerely, "It's time to help Yuan enter the Tao after she recovers." Then Lin Tai. Yang Tian hesitated to speak. Lin Tai has already embarked on the path of a ghost cultivator. Yichen shook his head lightly. He can only walk this path until the end. Fortunately, he's already at the perfect stage, ghost nascent stage now. He'll be able to show himself when he gets to the corporeal yang stage. He won't be afraid of the sun anymore. Ghost cultivators were different from orthodox cultivators. There was no turning back once they made their choice. That was also Lin Tai's choice. Soon, Yichen sensed that the formation in the secret chamber was trembling slightly. He appeared in the secret chamber with a flick of his body. Lin Tai and his son's eyes were red. Clearly, they had cried. After all, it was their first time reuniting. Yichen looked at Lin Xiao wryly and said, "Brat, do you still treat me as the person who killed your father now?" Lin Xiao buried his head in guilt. "Lin Xiao, kneel before my lord," Lin Tai shouted all of a sudden. Lin Xiao dared not hesitate and knelt hard before Yichen immediately. Yichen frowned. "Lin Tai, what are you doing?" Lin Tai looked at Lin Xiao with a dignified expression. "I made a huge mistake when I was alive. Fortunately, my lord didn't abandon me and gave me a new life. You'll have to repay my debt in the future. From now on, you must treat my lord as your everything. Even if you die, you're not allowed to frown. Do you remember that?" Lin Xiao nodded hard, his eyes slightly red. "Dad, I'll remember that. I'll listen to my lord." "Why do you have to do this?" Yichen sighed softly. "I've treated you as my brother since a long time ago. We're no longer master and servant. Your son is my son. I don't need this. A master is a master. A servant is a servant," Lin Tai said stubbornly. "Forget it." Yichen could not argue with him. So he said, "You're already at the perfect stage, ghost nascent stage now. Get ready. I'll pick a land of extreme yin for you to help you get to the corporeal yang stage." As for this brat, he looked at Lin Xiao and checked the latter's physique. He could not help but say, while smiling, "This brat has great potential. I can't believe that he has dual metal and with spiritual roots. He's a good seedling to become an alchemist and a blacksmith. No matter if it was a blacksmith or an alchemist, they could not live without fire. Therefore, cultivators needed to have a fire spiritual root. That way, they would be the most sensitive to the fire energy between heaven and earth. The corresponding fire spell comprehension ability would be more powerful than cultivators with spiritual roots of other attributes. End of this chapter. Chapter 16:29. On the land of China, a huge black shadow flitted across the clouds at high speed, and a figure was sitting on top of it at the moment. Yuan has consumed the longevity pill. I'm afraid she'll need a few days to completely refine it. Yichen sat on the 9-eagle phoenix and looked at the mountains, rivers, and land that were flying past below him. He mumbled, I might as well use this time to find a place of extreme ease for Lin Tai. Lin Tai was loyal to him and died for him. He was even willing to become a ghost cultivator to follow him. Since that was the case, how could Yi Chun remain indifferent? The 9-eagle phoenix spoke in human language. Master, we'll cross the border of China if we go any further south. Now that it had stepped in a void refinement, it was extremely respectful to Yi Chun. It knew very well that if not for Yi Chun, it would probably still be guarding the door for others. Yi Chun scanned the ground with his divine consciousness and suddenly frowned. It was because there seemed to be a battle near the border, and there was a faint familiar aura. Let's go down and take a look, Yi Chun instructed. After Yi Chun ordered, the 9-eagle wand spread its wings and charged toward the ground. It was like a bolt of lightning descending. The closer they got, the more intense the aura became. In the end, Yi Chun's heart skipped a beat. Old Ox. It was a village less than 50 kilometers away from the border of Myanmar. At that moment, it was filled with the stench of blood and intense flames. Countless people in uniform set fire everywhere, and there were even many people with dogs searching the mountain behind the village. At the foot of the mountain, a military car was tightly protected by many armed people. In the car, a middle-aged man with white skin held binoculars and observed the mountain in the distance. You must find that brat. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Even if you have to flatten this mountain. Yes. A firm voice sounded from the walkie-talkie. In the depths of the mountain, there was a natural cave. The light was dim, and only tiny droplets of water fell from the rock wall from time to time. On the ground, there was a yellow ox lying there. The ox was extremely old, and it seemed to be on the verge of death. If one took a closer look, they would notice that blood was slowly flowing out of its abdomen. Standing in front of Yellow Ox was a young man of about 17 or 18 years of age. The young man's face was pale, his lips were chapped, and his clothes were torn and tattered. The young man tried to catch the water droplets with his hands as he lowered his head to look at Yellow Ox. Yellow Ox, are you all right? However, Yellow Ox remained motionless, as if it had lost its breath. The young man's body trembled. He hurriedly squatted down and hugged Yellow Ox. His tears flowed down uncontrollably. Yellow Ox, you can't die. You can't die. He had never been so sad before. The young man's name was Ching Shan, and he was born in a small mountain village near the border of Myanmar in southern Yunnan. His parents died when he was a child, and he was raised by his second uncle's family. It wasn't that second uncle didn't treat him as his own nephew. Instead, he made him do all kinds of farm work, not to mention letting him go to school. Because of this, Ching Shan had been very sensible since he was young. He had always been meek and submissive. When he was almost an adult, second uncle was caught smoking. From then on, he was the only one left to survive alone. One night, he heard the sound of a cow crying outside his house. Ching Shan mustered up the courage to open the door, only to find a yellow ox standing outside. Yellow Ox was very old. Almost all of its teeth had fallen out. It seemed that it had walked a long way, and its hooves were all rubbed with blood. He would never forget the moment when Yellow Ox saw him. It was as if it had seen an old friend, and it gently nudged him with its pair of horns. At first, Ching Shan thought that it was a cow that had escaped from the village. However, after asking every household in the village, he found that no cow had ever gone missing. Moreover, He couldn't drive Yellow Ox away, so he had no choice but to let it stay in his house. The man and the ox depended on each other. Although Yellow Ox was old, it was very smart and diligent. Every time it planted a crop, it would take the initiative to plow the soil without Qing Shan's permission. However, just 3 days ago, a group of Myanmar mercenaries broke into the village. They seemed to be searching for something, and they killed many people. Qing Shan was the only one who escaped to the back of the mountain on Yellow Ox's back. Finally, he hid in this slightly narrow natural cave. "Yellow Ox, wake up! Wake up!" Qing Shan shook Yellow Ox's body violently. He cried, "I promised you that I would take you to the city. You can't die." Yellow Ox's body twitched. It seemed that it had regained its consciousness. It opened its eyes and looked at Qing Shan. "Master!" This was the first time it had spoken. However, it was so frightened by Qing Shan that it fell to the ground. Its eyes were full of fear. "Master, don't be afraid." Yellow Ox spoke in a very weak voice. "If I die, just peel off my skin and put it on your body. That will save your life." "No." Qing Shan couldn't care less about his fear. He held the calf's neck tightly and cried, "I won't let you die. I won't let you die." At this moment, he didn't know why he was so sad. It was as if the calf in front of him was not a cow, but an old friend who was about to pass away. "There's a sound in here." Suddenly, a cry came from outside. Then, there was the sound of footsteps. "Oh no, they found us." Qing Shan's expression changed. He was very scared. Yellow Ox roared with all its might. It seemed that it wanted to get up and leave with Qing Shan, but to no avail. It had lived for more than 70 years. It was old. In addition, when it was escaping with Qing Shan, it was shot by a bullet. The loss of blood accelerated the end of its life. Suddenly, a tall and strong man with a dark face walked to the entrance of the cave. He looked at Qing Shan and sneered. "So, you are hiding here. Tell the Lord that we have found him." He turned around and said. Then, he looked at the man and the calf with a ferocious expression. "Brat, are you going to come out by yourself? Or do you want us to come in and catch you?" Qing Shan's face was pale. Yellow Ox neighed, as if it was unwilling to give up. The man with the dark face ordered without turning his head, "Send a skinny man to go in and catch that brat for me." After he finished speaking, there was no movement behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw a black-haired young man staring at him with a poker face. The dozen men he brought with him were all lying on the ground. Their eyes were wide open, as if they had experienced some kind of fear before they died. The man with the dark face was about to take out his gun. "Ah!" In the next second, he shrieked as one of his arms exploded. Blood splattered all over his face. Ignoring the pain, he looked at the black-haired young man in fear. Who are you?" Bang! Yi Chun stretched out his hand and grabbed it. He exerted force with his arm and directly crushed it. Qing Shan, who was in the cave, looked terrified after witnessing everything. He could not understand why the bandits who killed without batting an eye in his eyes would be so weak before this young man before him. End of this chapter. Chapter 16:30. The moment the dying Yellow Ox behind him saw the black-haired young man, it could not help but roar with all its might. It seemed to be excited and asking for help. "You're quite loyal, you beast." Yi Chun looked at it with a complicated expression. Then he waved his sleeve, and a large amount of spiritual energy flowed into the Yellow Ox's body. The injuries on the Yellow Ox's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, it was able to stand up. Qing Shan was dumbfounded by this scene. Yi Chun lifted his head to look at the young man before him and sighed softly. "Do you still recognize me?" Who are you?" Qing Shan stammered. The shock in his heart could not be erased no matter what. "Looks like you still haven't awakened your memories from your previous life." Yi Chun's eyes flashed, and he shook his head immediately. "It's my fault for causing you to suffer this calamity. I'll seek justice for you now. Follow me." With a wave of his sleeve, he carried the ox and man and rode the wind as Qing Shan cried out in alarm. At the same time, in the military vehicle at the foot of the mountain, the white man kept shouting into the walkie-talkie, "B****, where are they?" Then the other end of the walkie-talkie was filled with noise. There was no other useful sound at all. "Sir, it's too late." An adjutant could not help but say, "We've been waiting here for too long." If China reacts, useless, a bunch of useless people. The white man roared repeatedly before roaring angrily. Order someone to flatten this mountain. Yes. After the adjutant received the order, he immediately got out of the car to relay the order. Not long after, dozens of cannons were aimed at the mountain in the distance. Fire! The adjutant ordered. It was at this moment that a figure suddenly rose from the distant mountain under everyone's gazes and stood in the sky. Everyone was completely stunned. My God! Someone gulped and said, "What's that?" Batman. The white man looked through the binoculars and saw Yi Chun and the rest's faces clearly. His expression changed suddenly. "Oh no, it's an Eastern cultivator! Fire, fire now!" He roared crazily. Boom! As soon as he said that, the entire world was filled with earth-shaking explosions. Dozens of cannonballs were fired at Yi Chun, who was in the air. However, just when the dozens of cannonballs were 3,000 meters away from Yi Chun, they froze at the same time. Nuclear weapons can't kill me either. Yi Chun smirked coldly. Let alone dozens of peanuts. As soon as he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers, and the dozens of stationary cannonballs were forcefully annihilated into powder. Die! He used his finger as a sword and slashed out. 1,000-foot-long sword aura whistled down and landed heavily on the troops on the ground. Hundreds of men died on the spot. Only the Caucasian big shot in the military vehicle was left looking at this scene in horror, as if he had seen a ghost. Yi Chun landed slowly with Qing Shan. He grabbed the white man from the car through the air. "Respected Eastern cultivator, don't kill me, don't kill me. I have a lot of money. I can give it all to you," the Caucasian man begged for mercy in broken Chinese. However, Yi Chun looked at Qing Shan behind him. "He massacred your village. Does he still want to kill you?" "Yes, that's him." Qing Shan looked at the Caucasian man with extreme hatred. He clenched his fists tightly, and he could not help but recall the scenes of his fellow villagers dying tragically. With a thought, Yi Chun handed the true martial Thousand Lightning sword to Qing Shan. "Kill him." "Ah!" Qing Shan panicked, as if he was startled. Yi Chun repeated himself. "Kill him. This person has killed so many people. Don't you want revenge?" "No." Qing Shan took a few heavy steps back and said very reluctantly, "No, I don't dare." Yi Chun shook his head lightly. As the flames in his eyes danced, the white man's body was ignited by the flames, and he was burned out. In a messy village, in a tile-roofed house that barely survived, Qing Shan slowly woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, a hint of confusion flashed across his eyes. However, this blankness was soon replaced by clarity. He looked at Yi Chun next to him slowly. His lips moved slightly, and an ancient expression that did not belong to a young man appeared on his face. Yi Chun turned around slowly and looked at him. He said while smiling lightly, "Old ox, congratulations on recovering your memories from your previous life." Qing Shan was Niu Qing Shan's reincarnation in this life, and Yellow Ox was naturally the ox that had followed Niu Qing Shan. Yellow Ox swung its whip and came over. It licked Niu Qing Shan's tender face crazily, as if it was extremely excited. "Thank you." Niu Qing Shan looked at Yi Chun with an extremely complicated expression after pushing Yellow Ox away. He kept recalling the past. Yi Chun shook his head. "You took care of me a lot back then. I was just keeping my promise. I'll help you when you're an adult. There's no need to thank me." At this point, he said guiltily, "I happened to pass by. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." Niu Qing Shan was silent for a long time before he finally said, "How's China now?" That was Niu Qing Shan. The first thing he said was about China and nothing else. China is doing very well now. It's ranked as the strongest country in the world. Yi Chun smiled lightly. 2 bottles of Maotai appeared in his hand, as if he was performing a magic trick. He handed one over and said, "Have a drink." Niu Qing Shan smiled as well. He patted Yellow Ox's butt and said, "Yellow Ox, go get some dishes." Yellow Ox shouted and leaped out of the door. Soon, he returned with a few packets of Weilong spicy strips. They were the only ones left after the only shop in the village was burned down. Yi Chun and Niu Qingshan finished 2 bottles of Maodai with just a few packets of Weilong spicy strips. Meanwhile, Yi Chun slowly recounted his experiences over the years, the changes on Earth, and even the existence of Insu. When he heard that the foreign enemies had invaded Earth and that many Chinese cultivators had died in battle, Niu Qingshan cried bitterly. He hated himself for being a baby waiting to be fed back then. Niu Qingshan laughed out loud when he heard that Yi Chun had wiped out many foreign sections. He was so excited that he cried. That was Niu Qingshan for the country and the people. He had spent his entire life protecting the country in his previous life. Niu Qingshan finished the last mouthful of wine and looked at him with a flushed face. His gaze was extremely complicated. What's your cultivation base now? Complete void refinement. Yicha did not hide it. He said while smiling, however, I can still fight a soul-splitting almighty. Time flies. Niu Qingshan sighed softly. When I first saw you back then, Sai, we're destined to be old antiques that are eliminated by the times. The future of China and Earth still depends on people like you. He said desolately. However, Yi Chun smiled mysteriously. Since I helped you, the Dragon Soul Master, awaken your memory, how can I watch you become mediocre? End of this chapter. Chapter 1631. In Liangjiang, China. It was the release of the college entrance examination results. Both sides of the bustling street were filled with onlookers. Everyone looked at the tall horse in the middle of the street enviously. A handsome young man sat on the tall horse. He was about 17 or 18 years old. He had a young smile and a big red flower on his chest. Meanwhile, a long line of people followed behind him. They would hit the huge gong from time to time. Is he the genius from Yun City's Chen family? That's amazing. He scored 750 on the college entrance examination. He's the top student in science in Liangjiang. He gave up the recruitment from the 2 top universities in Beijing and applied for China's military university instead. Beijing offered 1,000,000 yuan to fight for him, but he rejected them. If it were my child, I'd wake up laughing even in my dreams. I heard that this child was determined to be a soldier since he was young. He has great talent in military affairs. He even alarmed the highest commander of the local garrison. All sorts of discussions broke out from the crowd from time to time. They did not hide the envy and admiration on their faces. In the crowd, Yi Chun and Niu Qingshan, who had recovered his memory, looked at the young man on the tall horse quietly. Yi, looking at the slightly green face, Niu Qingshan was a little dazed. Are you sure this brat is old Chen's reincarnation? Of course it's him. Yi Chun smiled lightly, feeling a little dazed too. He recalled how domineering old Chen was back then. He did not expect his reincarnation to be so weak. What surprised me even more was that he chose to join the military in this reincarnation. Yi Chen mumbled, could it be that this is predestined? In his previous life, old Chen had given his all for the country. In the end, he went to Kunlun Mountain alone to fight the powerhouses of Shang Santian and died in battle. Meanwhile, his reincarnation gave up the recruitment from the 2 top universities in Beijing and chose China's military university instead. At the same time, the parade gradually left, leaving behind a crowd of people who were still in shock. Yi Chen smiled and followed them at a steady pace with Niu Qingshan. Yun City's Chen village was originally a remote and backward mountain area. It was so poor that roads and water and electricity were blocked. More than 10 years ago, a young man from the Chun family village made a fortune. This young man did not forget the kindness of the villagers and spent tens of millions to build a road for the Chun family temple. He also attracted investment from outside. In just over a decade, the Chun family temple had developed from a remote mountainous area to one of the 10 most famous villages in the country. To thank him for his kindness, the villagers raised money to build an ancestral hall, where the ancestors of the Chun family and civil star were worshipped. The Chun village's ancestral hall was approximately 1,000 square meters in size, and the building was rather ancient. At this moment, it was densely packed with villagers. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the path of existence with anticipation. Following the intermittent sound of a gong, someone in the crowd said happily, "She's here, Mr. Chun. Xiao Zhao is back." The one who was the most excited was a middle-aged woman who was surrounded by many people. The man was about 40 years old and had a mustache. He had an extraordinary temperament. As for the middle-aged woman, although she was already over 40, she maintained herself well and looked as if she was only 30. Under everyone's gazes, they saw a group of people escorting a large horse as they slowly approached. Zhao, the middle-aged man, was pleasantly surprised as he welcomed the young man. He gently helped the young man down from the horse and gave him a big hug. "Dad," the young man smiled happily. "Good job. I'm proud of you." The middle-aged man gave him a thumbs up and smiled proudly. "A man is born to protect the country. I respect your choice. Let's go and worship the ancestors." After saying that, he pulled the young man into the ancestral hall. Plop! He held a stick of incense in his hand and knelt before the many spirit tablets in front of him. Ancestors of the Chun family, I, Chun Dinka's son, Chun Zhao, passed the golden examination and became the Liangjiang science champion. Today, I'm here to pay my respects. The young man, Chun Zhao, also knelt down. All the Chun family villagers watched this scene with serious expressions. The two people in front of them were the pride of the Chun family village. One became rich from business and was worth over 100 million. The other threw away his pen and joined the army to serve on the battlefield. And it was in this extremely solemn occasion that a faint voice suddenly came from afar. "Your body is not yours. Your body is not jade. Let the fire burn this body." As this sudden voice rang out, everyone subconsciously turned their heads to look at the source of the voice. In the distance, there was a young man in green leading a young man in black. The young man had a dignified appearance and was handsome. A villager couldn't help but step forward and say, "Little brother, today is the Chun family village's worship day. I hope you can step aside for now." However, the young man walked straight into the ancestral hall as if he didn't see him. Someone suddenly became furious and reached out to grab him. However, when his hand touched the young man's clothes, he was immediately pushed back a few steps by a huge force. The man's expression changed, and he immediately waved his hand. "This person is here to cause trouble. Catch him." In an instant, several strong young men suddenly pounced at the young man. However, these people were all pushed back without exception. Everyone was shocked. A few experts next to Chun Dinka rushed out and protected the father and son behind them. One of the old men in traditional attire took a good look at Yi Chun and said in his deep voice, "Director Chun, this person might be a cultivator." The old man had white hair and a slightly hunched back. However, his breathing was extremely long. His temples were bulging, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Clearly, he was a martial cultivator. "Little brother." He took a deep breath in and walked up to Yi Chun while clasping his fists. "I'm Wang Pan, the 8 trigram fist sect leader. I wonder if there's any misunderstanding between you and Director Chen?" He thought Yi Chun and the rest were here to cause trouble. Therefore, he revealed their names by instinct in an attempt to resolve the grudge. However, Yi Chun shook his head and pointed at Chun Zhao, who was kneeling on the cattail hassock. "I'm here for him." The people's expressions changed when they heard that. Wang Pan's pupils shrunk at first. Then he said coldly, "If that's the case, please forgive me for being rude." As soon as he said that, he sank his energy into his dantian and shouted. A powerful energy shot out of his body and charged at Yi Chun. In the next second, he spat a mouthful of blood out and was thrown out. He landed hard on the ground with a horrified expression on his face. He had a martial, venerable cultivation base too. Never had he thought that he would be defeated before he could even touch the corner of Yi Chen's clothes. Powerhouse. This person was a powerhouse. Upon seeing that, the remaining experts who were protecting Chun Dinka were going to attack. However, Chun Dinka suddenly said, "Get this expert here." The people then dispersed. Yi Chun walked toward Chun Dinka and his son one step after another. He glanced at Chun Zhao first and then looked at Chun Dinka. "Mr. Chun, do you remember me?" End of chapter. Chapter 1632. Who are you? Chun Dinka was stunned at first. Then he took a good look at him. He seemed to have recalled something as he said all of a sudden, "Why, you were the savior who saved me back then. 18 years ago, He was only 24 years old when he was still a university student who had just graduated. He did not achieve anything and was rejected when he was looking for a job. Moreover, his girlfriend was about to give birth. He offended someone because he was drunk at a bar. He was almost severed when he was caught. It was Yi Chun who saved him back then. One could say that without Yi Chun, Chun Dinka would have died on the streets a long time ago, let alone achieve what he had today. He had always remembered that. However, he had never seen Yi Chun since then. He did not even know Yi Chun's name. 18 years had passed, and he had buried that in his heart. Never had he thought that he would see that person again today. What shocked him the most was that the face of his savior back then did not change at all. 18 years had passed, but he was still extremely young. I can't believe you still remember me. Yi Chun smiled lightly. 18 years ago, he had followed the advice of old Chun, Niu Ching Shan, second uncle, second aunt, and the rest. He had put them into the wombs of women who were about to give birth in China. Meanwhile, he had bumped into Chun Dunka on the way. He had saved him back then, but to his surprise, he noticed that Chun Dunka had a full forehead and was in good condition. There was even a red phoenix dancing between his brows. He had determined that Chun Dunka would definitely be extraordinary in the future. Coupled with his good character and the fact that he had saved him, he decided to put old Chen's soul into Chun Dunka's wife's womb. Zhao, Chun Dunka suddenly pulled his son, Chun Zhao, and knelt hard to Yi Chun. This is my savior 18 years ago. Without him, I would have been dead. Everyone turned pale with fright when they heard this. The savior 18 years ago? They thought they heard it wrong when they looked at Chun Dinka, who was over 40 years old, and Yi Chun, who was over 20 years old. Chun Dunka was old enough to be this young man's father, right? Even a young man. Chun Zhao was no exception. However, being filial, he pretended to kneel and kowtow to Yi Chun. Yi Chun waved his sleeve and stopped the father and son from kneeling. He said while shaking his head, "There's no need for that. I'm here today to keep the promise I made to an old friend back then." He paused for a moment before saying, "I wonder if you, father and son, are willing to come with me to a quiet place to talk." After the father and son nodded, he waved his sleeve and immediately carried the two of them in Niu Ching Shan with the wind. They instantly disappeared on the spot. Immortal! Immortal! Everyone was shocked. Some even knelt down on the ground and prayed piously. 3 living people disappeared in an instant. If they weren't immortals, what were they? Only the old man called Wang Pan seemed to have thought of something as he excitedly said, "Cultivators. This is a cultivator. This is a supreme opportunity for Director Chen's family." On a mountain peak near the Chun village, Yi Chun put down Chun Dunka and his son, who looked horrified. After the two of them had calmed down, he slowly said, "Next, I'm going to tell the two of you something that might shatter your inner world. You have to be mentally prepared." Chun Dunka took a deep breath in after hearing that. He could not help but look at Yi Chun. "May I ask if you're an immortal cultivator benefactor?" He was worth over 100 million yuan now and was considered an upper-class person in Liangjiang. Naturally, he came into contact with more things than ordinary people. Therefore, he vaguely knew about the existence of immortal cultivators. However, he did not have the opportunity to meet them. Moreover, 18 years had passed, but Yi Chen's appearance remained the same. Apart from immortal cultivators, who else could do such a heaven-defying technique? "That's right." Yi Chen nodded lightly and said while looking at Chun Zhao, who was still in shock, "I'm here for your son today." For Zhao, Chun Dunka was stunned at first. Then he said in excitement, "Benefactor, could it be that Zhao? Zhao, or has the potential to become an immortal?" He knew very well what it meant to be an immortal cultivator. "Yes." Yi Chen shook his head in between tears and laughter. He said, "But that's secondary. What's important is that your son was an old friend of mine in his past life. To be exact, he was an elder. You'll understand after I tell you a story." Before Chun Dinka could react, he slowly told him about how he knew old Chun, how old Chun went to Kunlun Mountain alone to attack Shang Santian to protect the Yi family, and how he died in the battle. Heaven and earth seemed to fall into dead silence after listening to him. Chun Dunka and his son were shocked, and they could not snap back to their senses for a long time. Yi Chen did not disturb them. Instead, he let them digest the information in their heads patiently. After all, what he said was too shocking to ordinary people. A long while later, Chun Dunka finally snapped back to his senses. He glanced at Chun Zhao with a complicated expression and said, "So, benefactor, are you saying that my son is General Chun Tulong?" "That's right." Yi Chen nodded. Chun Dunka took a deep breath in and said while forcing a smile, "To be honest, I regret knowing about this secret. As a father, I know you're conflicted," Yi Chen said. "As a father, your son was once a pillar of the country. This makes you conflicted because there will be a lot of feelings between you and your son." Chundinka nodded while forcing a smile. "I understand you very well. That's why I'm talking to you in detail today." Yi Chun continued, "No matter what, it's a fact that your son is the reincarnation of my old friend. Of course, I won't force you guys to be father and son. I have two ideas. You can take a look." He took a deep breath in and said, "Firstly, I'll unlock your son's memories from his past life and guide him to the Tao at the same time." Chindunka's lips moved slightly. "Secondly," Yi Chen said while smiling, "Secondly, I won't unlock his memories from his past life for now. I'll guide him to the Tao first and teach him cultivation methods. When he steps into nascent soul, he'll be able to awaken his memories from his past life on his own." Chindunka remained silent. Yi Chen did not force him. He said slowly, "No matter the first or second method, your son will awaken his memories from his past life. It's just a matter of time." Of course, he could not help but look at Chundunka as he spoke to this point. Unless you want your son to be an ordinary person for the rest of his life and never step onto the path of cultivation. That way, you and your son might be able to enjoy family ties like ordinary people. He had mixed feelings about Chundunka. Although Chun Zhao was the reincarnation of old Chun, his life in this life was given by Chundunka after all. No matter how powerful Yi Chun was, he could not take away a father's right to love his son. That was why he came up with these two ideas. Mr. Chun, Niu Qing Shan, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Earth is in danger now. I think you're a hot-blooded person. Are you willing to watch us fight alone?" End of this chapter. Chapter 16:33. In the vast void, a sword gleam broke through the layers of clouds and flashed through the void like a bolt of lightning. Niu Qing Shan, who was standing on the flying sword, turned around and glanced at the two rivers behind him. He sighed softly and said, "Fellow Yi, you don't have to worry too much. After all, everyone has their own choice." Yi Chen flew on his sword with all his might and said with a faint smile, "I don't mind. Just as you said, everyone has their own choice." In the end, Chun Dunka and his son were unwilling to unlock the memories of their previous lives. Instead, they chose the second method that Yi Chun provided. Yi Chun taught Chun Dunka a cultivation method and left him many resources that he needed for cultivation. Then, he left with Niu Qing Shan. Not everyone was like Niu Qing Shan. Niu Qing Shan had no parents since he was young. He did not have as many shackles as Chun Zhao, so he was more than happy to awaken the memories of his previous life. However, Chun Zhao was different. In this life, he had parents and relatives who loved him, and he also had the ideals that he had in this life. It was easier said than done for him to give up so many things at once. However, just as Yi Chun said, even if Chun Zhao chose to cultivate on his own, he would be able to awaken the memories of his previous life as long as he cultivated to nascent soul. By then, he would be able to accept all of this. As Yi Chen thought about that, he activated his flying sword with all his might. "After I find second uncle and second aunt, my trip will be considered complete." Back then, he had followed the last wishes of a few people. Now it was time for it to blossom and bear fruit. There had to be an ending. In a small district in Jinling City, China. At that moment, the area was filled with police lines. Countless police officers knocked on doors and interrogated them. From time to time, they would take statements. The atmosphere was very serious. In a family in Unit 502, Unit 5, Building C, the door was wide open. A slightly old woman was surrounded by many people. The woman covered her face and cried, her eyes red. "Sister Shufan, you have to take care of yourself. The neighbor comforted her sympathetically. I believe the police will find Yi Chi if you ruin your body. It won't be worth it. That's right. Technology is so advanced now. It's impossible for a living person to disappear without a trace. The others comforted her. The woman in front of them was called Chen Shufan. She usually made a living by buying vegetables at the market and lived alone with a son. The neighbors were all very friendly and kind to this strong mother and son. They would help out whenever they could. 3 days ago, Chen Shufan's only son, Yi Chi, did not return home after school. At first, everyone thought that the child had gone to his classmate's house, but they could not find him after a whole day of searching. Chen Shufan chose to call the police, but in the 48 hours after the police intervened, there was still no result. On the contrary, in the past 48 hours, the police received reports from other families. The cases were very similar to Chen Shufan's family, and there were even people from wealthy families in Jinling City. In just 48 hours, more than a dozen children had gone missing, all of whom were 17 or 18 years old. The police increased the number of police reinforcements. At the same time, they issued a bounty notice and searched the entire city, but they were still unable to find anything. Ms. Chun, looking at the heartbroken Chen Shufan, the third-grade superintendent in charge of this matter, Xiaonan, could not help but say, "Don't worry, the police will definitely find your child." Everyone else, disperse. Under her urging, everyone in the house shook their heads and returned to their own homes. At the same time, they closed their doors and did not allow their children to go out. At that moment, a young man in green walked into the Yi residence slowly. There was a young man in black following behind him. It was Yi Chun and Niu Qingshan. He was here for his second uncle's reincarnation. Never had he thought that he would notice the changes that happened in the past 3 days. 5:20 as the duo appeared. A young superintendent at the scene shouted, "Gentlemen, the police have sealed this place. Please go back. That's why I'm here." Yi Chen chuckled and glanced through the house. Eventually, he had his eyes on Chen Shufan. "Who are you?" The third-grade superintendent, Xiaonan, looked at Yi Chen with a scrutinizing gaze because she had never seen Yi Chen's face in this neighborhood. "I'm an old friend of the missing child." Yi Chen smiled lightly. Chen Shufan wiped her tears and lifted her head to look at him upon hearing that. "Sir, who are you? You don't know him?" A gleam flashed through Xiaonan's eyes. There was a hint of caution in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen again. "Since you're not a relative of this family, and you're not a member of the police force, please go back. The police will take responsibility for this." However, Yi Chen shook his head. "You guys can't take responsibility for this." He lifted his feet and stepped into the Yi residence after saying that. Xiaonan was enraged. "Cuff him." A young superintendent forced a smile. He thought to himself that this young mistress had a hot temper. She would cuff someone just because of a disagreement. However, he did not hesitate and cuffed Yi Chen without saying anything. He comforted him. "Brother, we suspect that you're related to this. Don't worry. We'll let you go as soon as we find out. I've told you guys that you guys can't take responsibility for this." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. As Xiaonan and the rest watched in shock, the cuffs that were cuffing him were suddenly undone. "Don't move." Xiaonan took out her gun and aimed it at Yi Chen without saying anything. "Who exactly are you? I'm ordering you to squat down and put your hands on your head." However, Yi Chen walked straight to Chen Shufan as if he did not hear her. Xiaonan clenched her teeth and wanted to shoot into the air. However, she felt that Yi Chen merely glanced at her in the next second. The gun in her hand flew out of her hand and landed in Yi Chen's hand. "Don't move." The other police officers were shocked as well. They aimed at Yi Chen. Yi Chen picked up the gun slowly and aimed it at his head. Then, he pulled the trigger softly. Everyone, including Xiaonan, could not bear to close their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they were horrified to find that a bullet had appeared in Yi Chen's hand out of nowhere. Yi Chen exerted force with his 5 fingers, and the bullet turned into metal powder that scattered on the ground. "Now, do you guys believe in my ability?" Under everyone's stunned gaze, Yi Chen walked to Chen Shufan and smiled lightly. "I can help you find your son, but I need a piece of underwear that he often wears. It's best if it's unwashed." Chen Shufan was stunned for a moment before she finally reacted. There was a glimmer in her numb eyes as she got up and walked into the bedroom to rummage through the drawers. Meanwhile, Xiaonan snapped back to her senses. She glared at Yi-chan with her beautiful eyes. "Which special department are you from?" Although she had just graduated from the police academy, she still knew some things that ordinary people could not come into contact with, such as special cultivation organizations like the Dragon King Palace. Yi-chan glanced at her with a forced smile. "Little girl, curiosity killed the cat." Oomph. Chapter 16:34. She seemed to be worried that Yi-chan would be unhappy after saying that, so she explained immediately, "That child usually stays in school. He only goes home on Saturdays and weekends. I only found this pair of socks that he hid under the bed." "Sure." Yi-chan smiled lightly and said after taking the pair of socks, "Can I take a drop of blood from your fingertip?" Chen Shufan was stunned. However, after meeting Yi-chen's gaze, she eventually bit her middle finger in trust. Blood gushed out immediately. Meanwhile, she looked at Yi-chan nervously as if she did not feel any pain. "Is that enough?" "Yes." Yi-chan sighed softly. He waved his sleeve after taking a drop of blood. Under Xiao Nan and the rest's dumbfounded expressions, Chen Shufan's hand that was bitten healed again. Yi-chan said nothing. He performed a seal with both hands and used the drop of blood as ink to draw on the pair of socks in the air. Blood-colored gleams condensed on the socks. The blood-colored gleams eventually transformed into a very complicated formation. It looked like a mysterious talisman with mysterious patterns flickering on it. It was the bloodline sensing talisman. Through the connection between the bloodline and the person, it could locate the person's environment. "Bloodline attraction," Yi-chan shouted. The pair of socks with the talisman on them soared into the air. It flew out of the open window as if it had been summoned. "Let's go." Yi-chan waved his sleeve and took a step forward with Niu Qing-shan, who was stunned. They disappeared from where they were instantly. What was left was a stunned crowd. Deep in the Shirwan Mountains in the northwest, there was a remote place that was covered in miasma and poisonous gas. No living being dared to step into it. What people did not know was that there was a huge cave that was dug by a great divinity in the huge mountain deep in the miasma. Outside the cave, there were two men dressed in red robes guarding the entrance. Bang! Suddenly, a woman flew out from the cave and crashed heavily into the grass. The woman was around 17 or 18 years old. She was naked, and her skin was as dry as an old woman's. Her eyes were wide open as if she had died with a grievance. "Trash, a bunch of trash." Hearing those words, the two men guarding the entrance of the cave immediately heavily knelt on the ground. Their expressions were incomparably terrified. The inside of the cave was extremely spacious, like a palace in the mountains. In the middle of the huge stone hall sat an old man with a hideous expression. "Trash, a bunch of trash." The old man cursed in exasperation. "What I want are virgin boys and girls. What did this bunch of trash catch for me?" Everyone in front of him knelt down, their bodies trembling. At this time, an old woman with a cane coughed a few times and said, "Reporting to Master, recently we have consecutively robbed more than 10 people, causing quite a commotion. If we act again, I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" The old man's eyes were like snakes. The old lady's expression changed slightly. "I'm afraid it will attract the attention of the Chinese cultivation world. If they are forced to intervene, it will be very troublesome for us." "With that bunch of trash?" The old man snorted coldly as if he was disdainful. The upper echelons of the Chinese cultivation world died in battle back then. Those who were lucky enough to survive, or those who have recovered, have already entered the Yin ruins. Who else in this world can be my match? Master is right. The old lady hurriedly complimented. "Fate, I'll give you 2 days to gather 9 pairs of virgin boys and girls with cultivation aptitude." The old man's expression turned cold, and his eyes turned blood red. "As long as I gather 9 pairs of virgin boys and girls with cultivation aptitude, I can use the blood spirit technique to collect yin and yang and step into the void refinement stage." "Yes, Master," the old lady responded and retreated. At the same time, on the other side of the cave, in a huge stone room. At that moment, There were more than 10 young boys and girls locked up. All of them were tied up, and their faces were filled with fear and despair. All sorts of cries were intertwined. Among the dozen or so people, there was a man and a woman who were relatively calm. The man seemed to be a young man about 16 or 17 years old. The young man's face was sallow, and he seemed to be malnourished. A few patches could be seen on his school uniform. The young girl had attractive features, and her eyes were clear. She was dressed extravagantly, and she had an extraordinary air of nobility about her. Crying, is that all you know how to do? Hearing the cries around her, the young girl smiled coldly and looked down on them. What's the use of crying? Won't you die if you cry? A boy glared at her angrily. Yang Shui, do you still have the mood to be sarcastic at a time like this? At least I know that crying is useless. The young girl named Yang Shui smiled disdainfully. Look at Yi Qi since he was captured. He has been calmer than anyone else. This is the only way we can calm down and try to save ourselves. Hearing that, the young man in the school uniform in the corner could not help but scratch his head. He smiled sheepishly. Since I was young, my mother has told me that the more dangerous the situation is, the calmer we should be. Everyone must believe that we will definitely get out of here alive. Come on, this piece of trash. How are we going to get out of here alive? Are we going to transform into Iron Man and blast through this iron wall? Or are we going to transform into Batman and fly out? The crowd smiled coldly. All sorts of sarcastic remarks fell into Yi Qi's ears. The latter's smile froze, and he immediately lowered his head. Yi Qi, don't mind what they said. Yang Shui looked at Yi Qi and comforted him. They're usually so arrogant and domineering. They only know how to cry when they're in danger. In my eyes, you're much stronger than them. Is that so? The young girl's comforting words made Yi Qi's face heat up, and he gained a lot of courage. He lifted his head and looked at the young girl's moving face. He took a deep breath and said, Yang Shui, if we all die here, we won't. Yang Shui's face turned pale, and she interrupted him, we won't die. Grandpa and the rest will definitely come and save us. At the end of the day, she was still a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Even if she was stronger than her peers, how much stronger could she be? Yi Qi nodded hard. The young girl paused for a moment, and her beautiful eyes dimmed. If we get out of here alive, I'll be your girlfriend, as she said that. Her pretty face heated up, and she could not help but bury her head. Really? Yi Qi was stunned at first, and then he reacted. Wei looked at the young girl again. His eyes were mixed with disbelief and intense excitement. Then his eyes dimmed, and he said in despair, Unfortunately, we're all going to die in here. Boom! At that moment, everyone felt the ground under their feet shake violently, as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. Chapter 16:35. In the northwestern mountains, shrouded in endless miasma, Yi Qin's divine will was like a flood that enveloped a radius of 50 kilometers. Countless scenes were reflected in his eyes instantly. 1 at perfected God transformation stage, 2 at late stage God transformation stage, 5 at early stage God transformation stage, and several nascent soul cultivators. With his enormous divine will, he saw everything from the leader of the evil organization to the disciples guarding the door. This even included the dozen or so children who were imprisoned. Very good. He sneered and took a step forward, teleporting toward the place where they were imprisoned. He said furiously, A mere perfected God transformation stage cultivator dares to plunder ordinary people. I think you're tired of living. His voice was like a thunderclap that resounded in the ears of all the living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers. His aura surged, and his pressure was unparalleled. The sky above the entire northwestern mountains seemed to darken. There was only a godlike figure. In an instant, all the living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers felt this monstrous rage. Countless living beings prostrated on the ground, trembling. It was too terrifying. Countless figures whizzed out from the mountain where the dozen or so children were imprisoned. All of them had killing intent on their faces. When they saw that it was a young man in green and a young man in black standing before them, everyone was shocked. Kill him, someone shouted. Instantly, Dozens of figures charged at Yi Chun. There was a chilly wind that sounded like ghosts wailing and wolves howling. You're courting death. Yi Chun's divine will gathered and swept out in all directions. Under the terrifying divine sense that was like quicksand, a series of blood-curdling screams rang out, and a ghastly mist of blood appeared in the air. At the same time, in the hall on the mountain, an old woman trembled as she leaned on her walking stick. Master, this is bad. A Chinese powerhouse is here. A Chinese powerhouse. The ferocious old man sitting at the head of the table was shocked at first. Then he sneered. So what if he's a Chinese powerhouse? I'm now at perfected God transformation stage. No one below void refinement can kill me. With that, the old man took a step forward and instantly appeared outside the cave. Then he saw a scene that terrified him. More than 50 disciples died instantly. There were even 2 soul formation final stage cultivators among them. However, when he saw Yi Chun's face clearly, he shuddered as if he had seen something terrifying. He cried out in shock, "Am mad Southern Yi. So you still know me?" Yi Chun looked at him coldly. "You're great. Not only did you plunder ordinary people to cultivate evil techniques, you even dared to touch my people." Misunderstanding. The hideous old man's expression changed abruptly, and he was extremely bitter. Damn it, why did I provoke this malefic star? He would never forget the endless killings Yi Chun had committed when he returned from the ancient desolate realm. When the news of Yi Chun and Yin Su killing many void refinement powerhouses spread, it became a nightmare for almost everyone. Misunderstanding, right? Yi Chun grabbed it from afar, ignoring the man's resistance. The ferocious old man's gaze became ruthless, and he actually intended to detonate himself. However, in the next moment, he let out waves of shrill cries. It was Yi Chun who had performed the soul-searching tactic on him. One was at stage soul formation, while the other was at stage void refinement. Their combat power was not equal at all. How could he have the strength to resist Yi Chun? Bang! Yi Chun crushed him into a bloody mist and extracted his soul. He then condensed the true Samadhi fire to destroy it. Great blood spirit method. It really is an evil technique. He sneered and directly stepped into the belly of the huge mountain. At the same time, in the stone room where more than 10 children were imprisoned. "Stop crying." Yang Shui stopped the others from crying and tilted her ear. "Listen, the commotion outside is getting louder and louder." Someone's eyes lit up, and hope was ignited. "Yang Shui, could it be that your family's elders are here to save you?" "There's no one with the surname Yi in my family." Yang Shui shook her head and could not help but look at Yi Chi in the corner. "Yi Chi, could he be here to save you? Although my surname is also Yi, our family isn't well off. How can we know such a person?" Yi Chi shook his head repeatedly, as if he was envious. Boom! Suddenly, under everyone's shocked gazes, the giant stone door that imprisoned them shook violently. Then it cracked into countless pieces at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone covered their heads with their hands by instinct, afraid that the stone shards would accidentally hurt them. However, to their surprise, although the stone door cracked, it did not explode. Instead, it fell to the ground. At the same time, a young man in green appeared before everyone's eyes. The young man was as handsome as a god, and there was a faint smile on his face. At that moment, everyone was stunned, including Yang Shui and Yi Chi in the end. Yang Shui was the first to react. She said gratefully, "Thank you for saving me, senior." "Ha!" Yi Chun looked at her with a forced smile and said something that puzzled everyone. "Do you still remember me?" Yang Shui could not help but take a few more glances at him. Although she found him familiar, she could not remember where she had seen him before. Instead, a stuttering voice came from the corner. "Why, you're that Uncle Yi from before?" Everyone looked over and saw Yi Chi looking at Yi Chun blankly. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Yang Shui finally recalled after hearing his reminder. She looked at Yi Chun in disbelief. "So it's you, Uncle." Yi Chun smiled in between tears and laughter. "You're flattering me if you call me that." Yi Chi was the reincarnation of his second uncle, Yi Ming. However, he called him uncle instead. If Yi Chi were to awaken his memories from his past life, it would probably be even more awkward. Let's go. I'll send you guys back. After shaking his head, he waved his sleeve. Everyone felt a gust of wind, and their bodies floated uncontrollably. Subsequently, all sorts of exclamations were heard. Yang Shui was the only one who remained calm. After leaving the cave, Yang Shui could not help but turn around and look behind her. She asked, "Senior, where are the bad guys who captured us?" "They're dead." Yi Chun chuckled softly. Yang Shui was shocked again when she heard that. She knew very well that the evil force was no weaker than the Yang family of Jinling. However, Yi Chun had crushed them all alone? Whoosh! At that moment, an old, furious voice came from the void. "Let go of my granddaughter!" Boom! A gigantic hand slammed hard at Yi Chun. An electric arc flashed through Yi Chun's eyes. The giant hand collapsed instantly and turned into countless terrifying storms that scattered in all directions. After hearing that voice, Yang Shui said excitedly, "Grandpa, don't do anything rash. This senior is here to save us. P.S. There's only one chapter today. Rest early, everyone." End of this chapter. Chapter 1636. Almost at the moment Yang Shui finished speaking, a white-robed old man suddenly appeared in the air. In the sky, an old man in white suddenly appeared. Behind him, there were more than 10 experts. Even the weakest among them was at the nascent soul stage. The white-robed old man was even at the intermediate stage of God transformation. If there were people from Jinling present, they would definitely realize that this group of people were from the wealthy Yang family of Jinling, and the white-robed old man was the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Lai. Grandpa, seeing the white-robed old man appear, Yang Shui, who was next to Yi Chun, immediately pounced over and hugged his arm tightly. "Grandpa, I thought I would never see you again. You little girl." Yang Lai shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. His face was filled with doting. "You're usually the weirdest. It's good that you suffered this time." "Grandpa, how can you say that?" Yang Shui was instantly unhappy. Shui, a middle-aged man standing at the side, pulled a long face. "Do you know how worried your grandpa was after something happened to you?" Yang Shui immediately looked aggrieved. Forget it. It's good that you're safe." Yang Lai walked towards Yi Chun after laughing out loud. "Thank you for saving me, fellow. I'm Yang Lai from the Yang family of Jinling." Before he could finish speaking, he seemed to have been petrified. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Yi Chun. His body shook. "Why, you're Mad Southern Yi, perfected Lord Yi?" "What? Mad Southern Yi?" As soon as these words came out, the rest of the people revealed shocked expressions. Even Yang Shui, Yi Chi, and the rest were dumbfounded. The person who saved them was the world's #1. Mad Southern Yi? Yi Chun smiled lightly when he met everyone's gaze. "Fellow Yang, you're being too polite." Yang Lai was extremely excited. "I didn't expect Shui to be so lucky to be saved by Heavenly Lord Yi. I'm just here because of fate." Yi Chun looked at Yi Chi and Yang Shui and said, "Fellow Yang, can you come with me? Since it's Heavenly Lord's invitation, how can I refuse?" Yang Lai said respectfully, "All right." Yi Chun waved his sleeve and charged towards Jinling with everyone. He carried dozens of people with his chi and traveled hundreds of kilometers in the blink of an eye, allowing everyone to witness his abilities again. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, at the Yi residence in Jinling City, Yi Chi and his mother, Chun Shufan, hugged each other and cried. Meanwhile, the grade 3 Superintendent Xiaonan and the rest were shocked. Clearly, they did not expect Yi Chun to not only rescue Yi Chi, but he had also rescued all the missing children. Yang Lai and the others didn't say a word, but there was a trace of deep meaning in their eyes when they looked at Yi Chi. Many of the Yang family members recognized Yi Chi because he was close to Yang Shui. This caused many members of the Yang family to dislike Yi Chi. However, they still vaguely realized that Yi Chi's relationship with Yi Chun was not ordinary. Chun Shufan let go of Yi Chi and knelt before Yi Chun. "Thank you for saving Chur, benefactor," he shook his head and said. "There's no need for that, Miss Chun. Speaking of this, I have a wish with your family for 2 lifetimes." He could not help but look at Xiao Nan, who was standing aside. "Officer Xiao, Do you finally believe that I'm not a bad person? Xiao Nan's pretty face blushed. She knew that she had been a little rash earlier. Just when she was going to apologize, Yi Chun said while smiling, "Officer Xiao, please bring these children that I've rescued back to their parents." Sure. Xiao Nan nodded. She immediately contacted several police cars and took the rest of the children away. Yi Chun waved his palm and set up a barrier in the house. He then looked at Qin Shufan, Yang Lai, and the rest. Guys, what I'm going to say next might be hard for you to accept. You guys have to be mentally prepared. Heavenly Lord Yi, please speak your mind, Yang Lai said respectfully. Yi Chun then slowly told them the secret that Yi Qi and Yang Shui were the reincarnations of his second uncle and second aunt. The house fell into dead silence after hearing that. Qin Shufan hugged Yi Qi, who was in her embrace, by instinct as if she was afraid that someone would snatch him away. Even a powerhouse like Yang Lai, who prided himself on being knowledgeable, was extremely shocked by it. Meanwhile, Yang Shui and Yi Qi were stunned. Yang Lai only digested the information a while later. He then took a deep breath in and said, "So, is that why Heavenly Lord Yi saved these two children?" "That's right." Yi Chen took in everyone's expressions and said slowly, "I know this secret is too shocking for you guys, but that's the truth. Therefore, I respect your choice if you want to awaken these two children's memories from their previous lives." He smiled lightly. At that moment, Yang Shui, who had finally snapped back to her senses, could not help but say, "Why, Senior Yi, are you saying that I was Yi Qi's wife in my previous life?" As soon as she finished speaking, she could not help but feel her cheeks burning despite her passionate personality. She then stole a glance at Yi Qi. Yi Qi also looked at her by instinct. As soon as their eyes met, they looked away as if they had been electrocuted. They dare not look at each other again. "That's right," Yi Chen said while smiling. "You guys were indeed husband and wife in your previous lives." Yang Lai shook his head and said, "Heavenly Lord Yi, I think we should respect their wishes if we want to awaken these two children's memories." In reality, the Yang family was naturally eager to befriend Yi Chun. After all, although the Yang family was a wealthy family in Jinling, they were nothing in the world. If they could befriend someone like Yi Chun, it would definitely be a great opportunity for the Yang family to grow in the future. However, he could not ignore his conscience and use his granddaughter as a stepping stone to climb up the social ladder. Yi Chun nodded and looked at Yang Shui. "Are you willing to let me help you awaken your memories from your previous life?" Yang Shui did not say anything. Instead, she looked at Yi Qi next to her instinctively with anxiety in her eyes. How could Yi Chun not know what she was thinking? He looked at Yi Qi after smiling. "What about you?" Under everyone's gaze, Yi Qi was a little nervous. Subsequently, he mustered his courage and said, "Can awakening my memories from my previous life make me more powerful? Can you let me protect my mother?" Qin Shufan's eyes turned red immediately. "Sure," Yi Chun said, "whether you awaken your memories or not, I'll guide you guys to the Tao and get you guys on the path of cultivation." Yi Qi said immediately, "Then, I'm not willing to awaken my memories from my previous life." "Why?" Yi Chun was interested. In reality, he hoped to help second uncle and second aunt awaken their memories from their previous lives. That way, the family could be reunited. However, the two people standing before him were two independent lives after all. They had things that they could not let go of. Chapter 16:37. Yi Qi said firmly, "Because I don't want to leave my mother. I'm not ready yet." Hearing that, Qin Shufan hugged him again, tears flowing uncontrollably. Yang Lai and the rest nodded secretly. This child was filial. He knew that the person standing before him was the world's #1, mad Southern Yi, but he was unwilling to abandon filial piety for the so-called glory and wealth. "I don't want to either." Yang Shui shook her head without even thinking. "I'm a little scared when I think about how I'm Yi Qi's wife." "Ha ha." Yang Lai and the rest were amused by that. Yi Chen shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. However, he roughly knew what Yang Shui was thinking. This girl and Yi Qi were not even boyfriend and girlfriend. It must be extremely complicated for them to suddenly recover their memories from their previous lives. It seemed like he could only let nature take its course. Thinking to this point, he immediately shook his head and said, "Forget it. I respect your choice. I'll teach you the cultivation method now. When the two of you step into nascent soul, you'll awaken your memories from your previous lives." An hour later, in the wealthy Yang family of Jinling, all the upper echelons of the Yang family stood at the door and looked at Yi Chun with respect. Naturally, Yang Shui, Yi Qi, and his mother were among them. "Fellow Yang," Yi Chun looked at Yang Lai firmly. "I'll leave Yi Qi and his mother to you guys. Of course, I won't let you guys do it for nothing. If your family is in danger in the future, you can go to Tianan and ask me for help." "Thank you, Heavenly Lord Yi." Yang Lai was overjoyed. This promise was greater than anything substantial. One had to know that he did not have much lifespan left. If he could not step into void refinement, he would definitely die. At that time, without him holding down the fort, coupled with the fact that the Yang family didn't have a talent to carry the cauldron, the Yang family would definitely fall into desolation and disappear. Meanwhile, Yi Chun had stepped into void refinement at such a young age. He might improve further in the future and have an endless lifespan. As long as Yi Chun was around, no matter how disappointing the Yang family was, they could at least ensure that their inheritance would continue. They might even prosper. Yi Chun took one last look at everyone before flying away with Niu Qingshan. At the same time, his voice resounded simultaneously in the minds of Yi Qi and Yang Shui. "You must not tell anyone else about the cultivation technique I've passed down to the two of you. Not even the people closest to you. Otherwise, it'll definitely bring calamity upon you. Remember. In the void, Niu Qingshan glanced at the shrinking ground and sighed as if he had lost something. Yi Chun said while smiling, as if sensing his feelings, "Are you disappointed that the three of them are unwilling to face the past?" "Not really." Niu Qingshan shook his head slightly. "I just feel that everyone has their own path to walk. Perhaps this is the true meaning of cultivation." Yi Chun said, "Then what's your Tao?" Niu Qingshan was confused. "I don't know. In his previous life, his Tao was to inherit the last wish of the previous captain of the Dragon Soul. He dedicated his life to protecting China. But in this life, the world had changed greatly. Talented people were born in every generation, and the vicissitudes of life had left him at a loss. Let's go." Yi Chun chuckled softly and charged toward Tianan with him. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. Although he had taught second uncle and second aunt the cultivation technique, it was not easy for them to cultivate to the nascent soul stage. Without a fortuitous encounter, it would take them hundreds of years. It was unknown if Yi Chun would still be on Earth after hundreds of years. However, since it was second uncle and second aunt's choice, he could only insist. Tianan, the Yi residence in Lin City. The Patriarch of Hell and the rest stood side by side as they looked at the void with solemn expressions. They saw countless colorful specks of light flickering in the sky. These specks of light were of different sizes and shapes. They floated slowly in the air, and from afar, it looked like a galaxy hanging upside down. Soon after, the sky darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was clearly a clear sky earlier, but it immediately turned into night. The most shocking thing was that the night seemed to be expanding. With Nine Dragons Bay as the center, it was rapidly expanding to the surroundings. First, Lin City turned dark, followed by the entire 3 provinces of Tianan, and it quickly spread to the surrounding provinces. In the end, the entire China fell into night. The night actually began to spread overseas. What happened? At that moment, countless people who were scattered all over the country were shocked by the sudden change in the sky. They looked extremely flustered. Countless cultivators, regardless of their cultivation base, felt very uneasy at that moment. Those who were in closed-door cultivation almost went berserk. What exactly happened? Could it be that Insu broke through? Investigate. Investigate it thoroughly. In an instant, the entire world was shaken. On the other hand, the Patriarch of Hell and the rest in Nine Dragons Bay were extremely shocked. Was Ms. Su the one who caused this phenomenon? The reason why they said that was because the specks of light earlier were all coming from the villa where Su Yuhan was. I can't see through it. I can't see through it. Old Taoist Tetian looked at the villa from afar and gestured for everyone to stay away. Then he muttered, I'm quite experienced, but I still can't see through this sudden phenomenon. I hope nothing happens to Yuan. Yihai and the rest stood in the distance, extremely worried. At that moment, a figure flew over from the sky. Subsequently, Yi Chun and Yo Qingshan's faces were revealed. Yi Chun could not help but say after sensing the change, How did this happen? Fellow Yi, something happened to Ms. Su. Old Taoist Tatian said. Yi Chun's expression changed slightly. He took a step out and charged toward the villa, but he was pushed back by an extremely powerful force. You can't go in. Xiaoling's childish voice was finally heard. Mommy is breaking through. You can't disturb her. Yuhan is breaking through to God transformation stage. Yi Chun was delighted to hear that. It meant that Su Yuhan had successfully refined the longevity pill and was breaking through to the threshold of God transformation stage with the help of the medicinal power. When she truly stepped into God transformation stage, she would definitely be able to increase her lifespan by another 1,000 years. Coupled with the 500 years from the longevity pill, that would be 1,500 years. Thinking to this point, he immediately suppressed his excitement and sat up outside the villa to personally protect Su Yuhan. At the same time, in the forbidden land of Yinshu, many terrifying auras woke up from their long slumber, and voices that sounded like the chanting of gods and demons could be heard. King, our respected king, has awakened. The hope of our race has finally been revived. As long as the Nether clan is not destroyed, the Azura clan shall live forever. In an instant, the entire Yinshu erupted with earth-shattering tremors, causing countless forces to be extremely shocked. It was unknown how many living beings perished under such a commotion, and the demonic earth that had just fallen into silence with great difficulty became restless once again. Chapter 1638. In the sky above the Yi residence, everyone silently watched the unforeseen event unfold. The night enveloped everything, triggering the most primitive fear of the night in many people's hearts. Countless black runes surged in the sky above the Yi residence villa. An indescribable and vast pressure quietly spread out, causing the space to distort. Yi Chen's eyes were serious. He could sense that the Yin energy that had accumulated between heaven and earth had reached a terrifying limit. As she stepped into God transformation stage, he was a little worried. The pressure brought about by Su Yuhan's breakthrough was much more terrifying than when ordinary cultivators stepped into God transformation stage. Boom! At that moment, an incomparably condensed black pillar of light shot into the sky from the Yi residence villa. The scene seemed to have pierced through the sky. At the same time, a pressure that belonged to a God transformation stage expert erupted from the villa. Success. In an instant, everyone seemed to have sensed something and looked over. Yuhan. Yi Chun was elated. He charged into the villa immediately. This time, Xiaoling did not stop him. On a huge black lotus platform, there was a slender figure. There was a slender figure dressed in a long black dress with dark golden patterns inlaid along the edges. All of them revealed a noble and unfathomable aura. The owner of that beautiful figure had a breathtakingly beautiful face. Her skin was as white as snow. Her eyebrows were like willow leaves, and her eyes were as deep as a serene pool. It was as if one would be completely captivated by her just by looking at her. Yi Chun looked at the lady before him in a daze. There was disbelief in his eyes. Yuhan, as if hearing his voice, the lady who was sitting cross-legged finally opened her eyes slowly. She looked at Yi Chun with her noble eyes. Subsequently, they seemed to have turned into a myriad of colors. She smiled lightly. Xiao Chun, I've succeeded. Yi Chun could not hold it in anymore. He ran over and hugged her tightly. He said excitedly, Yeah, you've broken through. Not only did you increase your lifespan by 500 years, but you've also stepped into beginner stage God transformation stage. Beginner stage God transformation stage? Su Yuhan's beautiful eyelashes fluttered as she smiled non-committally. Xiaoqin, I'm not just at soul formation stage, early stage now. She slowly stretched out her hand and opened her palm. Immediately, a black lotus condensed in her palm. As the black lotus appeared, Yichen's expression finally changed because he sensed a dangerous aura from the black lotus. He could not help but look at Su Yuhan in shock. What realm are you at now? Spirit's severing stage? Before Su Yuhan could speak, Xiaoling's voice was heard. Mommy isn't a cultivator. She's a masterful underworld lord now. Underworld lord of hell. Yichen was extremely excited when he heard that. The so-called grand completion lord of hell referred to the cultivation system of the netherworld. If one had to compare it with a cultivator, it would be equivalent to the void refinement stage. In other words, Su Yuhan had advanced from the nascent soul stage to the great perfection void refinement stage directly. She was only one step away from the god of hell stage. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed it. As if sensing his emotions, Su Yuhan held his hand tightly and smiled gently. Xiaochun, after this breakthrough, I suddenly have a lot of intermittent memories in my mind. Yichen's heart sank. Did you remember your past life? No. Su Yuhan shook her head lightly as if she was confused. These memories are very fragmented and incomplete. It's as if they've been sealed. I'll always see some scenes unconsciously. That's great. Yichen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At that moment, an extremely oppressive aura suddenly entered his six senses. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in the air. Squeak! In the sky that was gradually brightening up, a crack that looked like the mouth of a ferocious beast suddenly appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. As the crack grew larger, a frightening evil aura spread out from it, accompanied by an endless amount of black aura. Demonic energy. At that moment, the expressions of the Patriarch of Hell and the rest changed. They could not be more familiar with this thing. After all, Insu was filled with quite a lot of it. Yichen's eyes turned grim as he looked at the huge crack. A thought flashed through his mind immediately. Insu is cracked? At the next moment, a black-clothed figure landed next to him. It was Su Yuhan. Xiaochun, it's the demon tribe. Su Yuhan stared coldly at the crack that was rapidly growing in the depths of the void, as if she had become a different person. Mom, the bad guys from the demon tribe are here again. Xiaoling's voice was heard. They must be coming for you. These bad guys. If the demon tribe's lord didn't join forces with that perfected immortal from the lower realm to plot against you back then, how could you have died? Haha. As expected of a nether lord who was once famous in the three realms. As the black mist in the huge crack surged, a black shadow whizzed out from it and turned into a man in black. A pair of dark golden eyes behind the man seemed to cover the sky on purpose, and the aura he emitted caused the temperature in the surroundings to cool down. Demon King. Chapter 1639. Subsequently, several black shadows surged out from the huge crack behind him. These black shadows all turned into creatures that were taller than humans. 5 demon generals. The expressions of the Patriarch of Hell and the rest in the distance changed again and again. They did not expect a demon king and 5 demon generals to descend this time. If they were to fight, the scene would be extremely tragic. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. In China, especially in my territory, it's not your place to behave atrociously. He stretched out his hand and turned it into a huge hand that slapped the air. However, at that moment, a black shadow condensed in the air and collided with the huge hand, forcefully shattering it. The Netherlord's reincarnated cultivation companion is quite talented. As a sinister laughter rang out, the black silhouette turned into a woman. She was completely naked and had 3 heads, each with a sinister face on it. A female demon king. Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Let me introduce myself. I'm the demon king Yaojia from the Saha God clan. The other one is the demon king Shi Dao from the Three-Eyed God clan. The female demon king looked at Su Yuhan and grinned at the same time. Netherlord, you should know our purpose. If you're smart, leave with us obediently. Otherwise, at this point, 3 evil laughs were heard. Otherwise, not only will your cultivation companion die, even the living beings in this world will be destroyed. After hearing the two of them call Su Yuhan the Netherlord, the Patriarch of Hell, and old Taoist Taishan's expressions changed. The Patriarch of Hell and Heaven Trampler's expressions changed. Their eyes were filled with shock when they looked at Su Yuhan, especially the Patriarch of Hell. Back then, when the Netherlord led the Netherworld to attack the spirit realm, he was still a soul-splitting cultivator. Even so, he could never forget the peerless talent of the Netherlord, who caused the spirit realm to retreat. If the spirit realm had not desperately lit the lower realm incense in the end and summoned a true immortal patriarch from the immortal world to the lower realm, the spirit realm would have ceased to exist long ago. However, such a powerful person was Su Yuhan. What a joke. Yi Chan smirked coldly. How dare you boast shamelessly about destroying all living beings on Earth with just 2 demon kings and 5 demon generals? He began to realize that Su Yuhan's breakthrough might have caused her aura to leak, and the beings before him noticed it. Therefore, they broke In Su regardless of the cost with the goal of capturing Su Yuhan. After all, Su Yuhan was the master of the underworld in her past life. It seemed that something had happened to In Su. What a sharp-tongued kid. Demon King Shur Dao of the three-eyed god race snickered. I heard you killed quite a few of my people. Being able to meet you today has saved this king a lot of time. Netherlord. He could not help but look at Su Yuhan, who was next to Yi Chan, after saying that. I have to say that you're extremely unlucky. You awakened early, and we sense your aura. She seemed to be thinking hard about something. A few seconds later, the aura on her body changed, as if she had transformed into a 10,000-year-old snow mountain. In just a few seconds, the temperature of the world suddenly dropped. Xiao Chun. Su Yuhan looked at Yi Chan with incomparable gentleness. You've been protecting me all these years. Today, it's my turn to protect you. With that, she took a step forward. Her black hair suddenly expanded as if it was woven from the endless night. Shaoling. Boom. Under Yi Chen's gaze, the nether energy that shrouded the Yi residence whistled and turned into an extremely condensed black umbrella that landed in Su Yuhan's hand. As soon as the black umbrella landed in her hand, Su Yuhan seemed to have transformed into a statue that stood between heaven and earth. She stood there unmoving after billions of years of impact, eternal and indestructible. Dark heaven underworld treasure, underworld umbrella. Almost at that moment, Demon King Yaojia and Demon King Shur Dao's pupils constricted violently, and they almost cried out in shock. Don't be afraid. Demon King Shur Dao sneered. She hasn't fully awakened. Moreover, this underworld umbrella was damaged in the battle back then. She can't unleash her peak combat power at all. Attack! With that, he chose to make the first move. A ferocious glint flashed in his eyes, and the surging demonic clouds turned into a giant palm that slapped towards Nine Dragons Bay. If it was allowed to fall, the entire Nine Dragons Bay would probably be razed to the ground. Even so, it's enough to kill 2 pieces of trash like you. Su Yuhan's black hair curled up as the underworld umbrella in her hand suddenly expanded. It turned into a black umbrella that could hold up the sky and face the giant palm. Boom! Along with an earth-shattering bang, the giant palm actually collapsed when it collided with the underworld sifting umbrella. Kill! The 5 demonic generals circling around her revealed ferocious expressions, and then they transformed into monstrous demonic beasts with enormous bodies. They charged towards Su Yuhan with terrifying power. Su Yuhan acted as if she did not see it. Suddenly, a strand of black hair fell from her shoulder and drifted down with the wind. She had actually severed the 5 of them. Everyone felt their hair stand on end when they saw this. That was equivalent to 5 void refinement stage demon generals. Yet, they were severed by a strand of hair? Holy shit, sister-in-law is too powerful. Yang Tian's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Demon King Yaojia and Demon King Shur Dao were furious. Underworld Lord, even you, the Lord of the Demon Realm, couldn't do anything to me back then. Do you think you can do that with just a few ants? At that moment, Su Yuhan seemed to have changed into a different person. She walked towards a void step by step as if nothing could stop her. Chapter 1640. Seeing Su Yuhan instantly kill the 5 demon generals, Demon King Yaojia's 3 heads shrieked, "How did you recover so quickly? Let's attack together. Even if we can't capture her alive, we have to kill her." Demon King Shidao's pupils constricted violently. He finally realized that the person standing before them was not just a mortal woman. She was the Azura King, the Netherlord, who had thrown the 3 realms into chaos back then. Boom! At that moment, the two of them looked at each other with ferocious gazes. In the next moment, 2 terrifying light figures wrapped in monstrous devil chi instantly burst out, accompanied by a frightening evil aura that pervaded the air. Demon Edict's sword. Demon King Shidao pointed his finger in the air and instantly turned into a huge black sword. It tore through the void and slashed towards Su Yuhan. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but feel their hearts in their throats. Even Yi Chun, who was standing below and watching the battle, could not help but have a flash in his eyes. He hesitated whether to make a move or not. Su Yuhan's hair was sparkling. Her snow-white fingers were as hard as an immortal artifact. She directly shattered the black sword and struck the center of Demon King Shidao's brows. Dachira Demon Flower. Demon King Yaojia roared furiously. His hands overlapped, and a black petal condensed in his hand. Then, it whistled towards Su Yuhan. The so-called Dachira Demon Flower was a special plant that grew in the demon world. The most powerful thing about it was that it could confuse people's minds. Rumble. Su Yuhan's black hair fluttered in the wind. Every strand seemed to want to cut through the world. After shattering the Dachira Demon Flower, she took the initiative to attack the 2 of them. The 3 of them fought from low altitude to high altitude, and then from the depths of the void to beyond the 9 heavens. It caused the world to lose its color, and the sun and moon to lose their light. If Yi Chun had not protected the area within a kilometer, the entire 9 Dragons Bay would have been destroyed by the terrifying shockwave. Blurg. Demon King Yaojia let out a miserable cry. One of his heads was actually destroyed by Su Yuhan's finger. He suddenly retreated while screaming. Demon King Dao's heart shuddered as he watched Su Yuhan, who was getting braver as the battle progressed. Both of them were demon kings, which was equivalent to early-stage cloning. Theoretically, they should be able to capture Su Yuhan if they joined forces. Never had they thought that the combat strength that she displayed would astonish them. Bang! At that moment, the brilliance in Su Yuhan's eyes intensified. Killing intent burst out of her fair face that was the most beautiful in the world. The next moment, her pair of slender white hands slapped out directly. Yaojia Demon King's miserable shriek resounded across the world. After that, his huge body turned into a mist of blood that scattered across the sky. The heavens and earth were dyed with blood. Demonic blood surged. In everyone's eyes, there was only a peerless beauty left. She was like an ancient goddess descending to the mortal world. Her aura was vast and mighty, as if the entire world was trembling because of her. With the death of Yaojia Demon King Dao's expression changed completely. Without saying a word, he turned into countless wisps of black smoke and fled towards the spatial crack that was about to close. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, Su Yuhan's black hair expanded in the wind. It seemed to have turned into bolts of black lightning that encompassed everything. The countless strands of black chi were completely wiped out by the lightning-like strands of hair. Don't get cocky, Netherlord. My clan won't let you go. As an earth-shattering scream rang out, the space returned to its previous deathly silence. The billowing demonic aura that shrouded the void also dispersed as if it had evaporated. Lingjia Literature Network, even so, the people who were watching the battle still did not come back to their senses. Shocking, absolutely shocking. At that moment, their eyes were fixed on the beautiful figure in the void. Although the beautiful figure was a woman, she looked down on the world. Her eyes seemed to look down on the world as if she was above all. Each one is more monstrous than the other. The patriarch of hell shuddered. He wanted to cry. but no tears came out. What kind of people did the patriarch encounter? Before this, he thought that Yi-chan was already extremely monstrous. However, he was dealt another blow after seeing the change in Su-yuhan. The patriarch of hell had reincarnated. He was a tribulation stage almighty in his previous life. Why could he not feel any sense of superiority from these two people? However, the jealousy in his heart disappeared without a trace when he recalled that Su-yuhan was a ruthless person in her previous life. After all, countless Mayana patriarchs had died in the battle between the spirit realm and the netherworld back then. It took the spirit realm tens of thousands of years to barely recover. Even he felt that way, let alone old Taoist Tatian and Yang Tian. Yi-chen's gaze was extremely complicated as he looked at the beautiful figure that seemed to have changed into a completely different person. He eventually said slowly, "Yuhan." The beautiful figure trembled slightly and turned around slowly to look at Yi-chan. There were too many emotions in her eyes. There was arrogance, complexity, love, but most of all, there was confusion. Suddenly, anger flashed through her eyes. Subsequently, she charged at Yi-chan like a majestic god. What is she doing? Yang Tian, who was the first to see that, immediately cried out, "Yuhan, are you crazy?" At the same time, his figure flashed and quickly charged at the former, as if he wanted to stop her. Bang! However, Su-yuhan merely slapped him lightly. Yang Tian screamed and smashed into the ground. This sudden scene caused everyone to be stunned. Yi-chan was also stunned. He did not expect Su-yuhan to attack him. Boom! Su-yuhan pointed with her finger. Her peerless beauty illuminated the past and present as if she wanted to shatter him. Yuhan, Yi-hai, and Wu-lan turned pale in fear. Mom, at that moment a cry was heard. It was Ming-ming. Hearing the cry, Su-yuhan's body suddenly stopped as if she was frozen. There was a faint struggle on her beautiful face. Bleck! In the next moment, a trace of blood suddenly flowed out of her mouth. Then, her face turned extremely pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, she started falling to the ground quickly as if all her energy had been sucked out. Yi-chan took a step out and hugged her. However, he realized that she had fainted a long time ago. Fortunately, she seemed to be exhausted and did not show any signs of being injured. Do not worry too much. The underworld umbrella's artifact spirit, Xiao Ling, said weakly, "I'm exhausted. I just need a nap." Subsequently, Chapter 1641. Yi-chan shook his head lightly and carried Su-yuhan into the villa. He placed her on the bed gently and covered her with a blanket. Looking at that beautiful face that was still beautiful even though she was in deep sleep, he did not know why, but a faint trace of worry emerged in his heart. Su-yuhan's transformation was just too great. First, she obtained the so-called underworld umbrella. Secondly, she used the longevity pill that he refined to become an underworld lord. The biggest change was that she, who had always been incomparably weak, had actually killed 5 demon generals and 2 demon kings so decisively. Then, she attacked him. He held Su-yuhan's hand tightly by instinct as he thought to this point. He looked at her with a complicated gaze. "Yuhan, have you really awakened?" He did not know how Su-yuhan would face him and her 2 children if she completely awakened and recovered her memories from her previous life. After all, she was the lord of the underworld in her previous life. How could a ruthless person who had once rebelled against the 3 realms be willing to be burdened by emotions? Eventually, he took a deep breath in and suppressed his emotions. He let go of Su-yuhan's hand and walked out of the villa. The patriarch of hell and the rest welcomed him. Yi-hai carried the 2 children and said worriedly, "Xiao-chan, is Yuhan all right?" He shuddered at the thought of Su-yuhan attacking Yi-chan even after she became so terrifying. "Dad, don't worry. Yuhan is fine." Yi-chan shook his head. After his parents left, the patriarch of hell took a good look at the villa and said softly, "Is Ms. Su really the reincarnation of the Lord of the Underworld?" Yi-chan nodded lightly. With such an unforeseen event occurring today, even if he wanted to conceal it, he would not be able to do so. Even though he was prepared, the patriarch of hell still inhaled sharply. I didn't expect her to be the reincarnation of that peerless murderer. Old Yi, who's the lord of the underworld that you guys are talking about? Yang Tian was confused. The patriarch of hell shook his head. In the end, he told him everything about the lord of the underworld and the underworld. Yang Tian was dumbfounded after hearing that. Shocked, aren't you? The patriarch of hell chuckled. He then looked at Yi Chun with a wry smile and said, I really don't know if you're lucky or unlucky to be the lord of the underworld's wife. Why do you say that? Yi Chun asked. The patriarch of the netherworld shook his head and said with a smile, I said you're lucky because the women of the Ashura clan in the netherworld are all as beautiful as flowers, while the men are all extremely ugly, especially the lord of the netherworld, who is the #1 beauty of the 3 realms. He paused for a moment and said with a hint of schadenfreude, and the reason why I said that your luck is bad is because the lord of the underworld is heartless, especially when it comes to men. In the end, not only did you woo her reincarnation, she even gave birth to 2 children for you. F***CK? Yang Tian jolted and looked at Yi Chun sympathetically. Old Yi, good luck. That's nothing. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring shook his head and said, The most troublesome thing is that the Nether Lord is the legend of the Nether clan. He's also the public enemy of the other 2 realms. If this matter spreads out, the Nether clan and the other 2 realms won't let you go. I only know that she's Su Yuhan, my wife, and the mother of 2 children. Yi Chun said with determination in his eyes, If anyone stops me from being with him, don't blame me for slaughtering everyone. There was something else that he didn't say. What was the spiritual realm? What was the netherworld? What was the demon realm? One must know that he, Yi Chun, was once the master of the immortal world. Such an identity was enough to crush everything. You'd better be careful. Old Ancestor Yellow Spring reminded him kindly. Ms. Su's change today is enough to prove that her memories from her previous life are probably awakening. Once they're completely awakened, it's hard to say if it's a blessing or a curse. Theoretically speaking, if the Lord of the Underworld is completely awakened, the Lord of the Underworld's memories will definitely control everything. Of course, it's not like Ms. Su's consciousness doesn't stand a chance. After all, she's the one controlling the body in this life. Just as he was speaking, a few earth-shattering thunderclaps suddenly sounded in the sky. The commotion shook the entire world. Everyone's expressions changed slightly, and then they raised their heads to look. They saw an incomparably huge crack in the sky. The crack was like glass that had been shattered. It grew larger and larger, and in the end, it actually split into countless densely packed cracks. The sky is cracking. At that moment, everyone in the world raised their heads to watch such a shocking scene. For some unknown reason, everyone had a bad premonition in their hearts. At the next moment, a petite and weak body suddenly floated up from the ground and quickly rose into the sky. Who's that? Yi Chen's pupils constricted violently. Qian. The skinny figure in the sky was Qian. Where's she going? Everyone was shocked. Meng, who was on the ground, said reluctantly, Sister Qian. Qian was wrapped in a ball of purple energy. The purple energy almost blotted out the sky, causing a terrifying aura in the little girl's body to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. Big brother. Qian looked at Yi Chun, who was on the ground with tears in her eyes. She waved at everyone. It's time for me to go. I'm going to complete my mission. Yi Chun's eyes flickered, and he was about to make her stay. No! The patriarch of Yellow Spring hurriedly stopped him. This child has innate primordial violet energy on her. It's the Tao of this world. The Tao of this world is beginning to awaken in her body. If you make a move now, it's equivalent to becoming an enemy of the entire world. What do you mean? Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. The Tao of this world has awakened. The heavenly Tao is about to be recast. That should be the case. The patriarch of Yellow Spring's expression was solemn. I don't know what happened that caused this child to awaken. You and I both know that she's the reincarnation of the heavenly Tao. Under everyone's gazes, Qian rose higher and higher and floated further and further away. In the end, she completely disappeared from everyone's sight. Qian, Yi Chen's nose ached. He was sad for the little girl's departure. Fellow Taoist Yi, look. The patriarch of Yellow, Spring, suddenly exclaimed. Yi Chen looked over and saw that the cracked sky was starting to heal. The cracks became fewer and fewer, and in the end, there was not a single one left. At the same time, there seemed to be a layer of transparent protective shield spreading rapidly outside Earth, enveloping it completely. At that moment, everyone in the world suddenly felt a sense of oppression in their hearts. It was as if there was an eye in the sky looking at everyone. It was a sense of reverence that came from the depths of their souls. Earth's heavenly Tao has been reborn. Although he did not know why this was happening, such a thought flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Suddenly, a streak of light tore through the sky and whistled toward him. It turned into an existence that looked like a messenger pigeon. Yi Chen caught it, and a dozen words appeared in his mind instantly. Yin ruins is broken. The apocalypse is demonic. Xian Yuan has appeared. The Tao has been reborn. Return quickly. Chapter 1642. Yin Su is broken. The words could not stop echoing in Yi Chen's mind. What followed was a shocking wave. What? Yin Su is broken? When the Patriarch of Hell and the rest heard the news, they were extremely shocked. Isn't there a technique left behind by the Realm Guardian and Great Emperor Xian Yuan? Ordinary people might not understand what Yin Su's destruction meant, but those who had entered Yin Su knew it very well. The greatest threat in Yin Su was the demonic soil. It was caused by the demonic energy seeping through the cracks in Yin Su, and there were countless demonic creatures living in it. Once it was allowed to fully erupt, not to mention Yin Su, even the entire Earth would be faced with a catastrophe. The demonic apocalypse is probably referring to the threat of the demonic soil. Yang Tian frowned and said slowly, "But what does Xuanyuan's manifestation and the rebirth of the great Tao mean?" Yi Chen could not help but look at the Patriarch of Hell when he heard that. They suddenly thought of Qianqian's ascension and the protective shield that covered Earth. Xuanyuan's manifestation is probably the protective shield that covers Earth. It's hard to understand from the literal meaning, but it should be the final technique left behind by Great Emperor Xian Yuan back then. The Patriarch of Hell took a deep breath in and said, "As for the rebirth of the great Tao, it should be Qianqian." The destruction of Yin Su and a series of changes caused her to transform into the heavenly Tao. However, what I don't understand is, at this point, he could not help but narrow his eyes. This series of changes are all connected, and it's extremely coincidental. Could it be that Great Emperor Xian Yuan predicted that this would happen? As expected of Great Emperor Xian Yuan, who was once an immortal. Yi Chen was also shocked by this technique. Taoist Taishan's expression changed slightly. Then, he formed a seal and soared into the sky, flying towards the depths of the sky. Boom! At that moment, a bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm suddenly descended, carrying a terrifying aura as it struck at him. Oh no! Taoist Tetian hurriedly took out a golden armored puppet. Boom! The golden armored puppet was shattered into pieces by the lightning. Meanwhile, Taoist Tatian quickly landed on the ground. When he looked at the depths of the sky again, his gaze was filled with fear. The heavenly Tao of this world has really been resurrected. It actually stopped me from leaving. His expression was dark and uncertain. Yang Tian couldn't help but laugh. Brother Tatian, our world is pretty good. It doesn't matter if we stay a little longer. Heaven-taming Taoist was on the verge of vomiting blood after hearing that. I'm not from your world. I'm only here to look for my clan's young mistress. I don't want to be dragged into the so-called fiend calamity. Before this, when he had first arrived on Earth, he had felt that Earth was merely an abandoned star domain. The spirit Qi there was completely incomparable to that of the outer realm. However, ever since he witnessed Yi Chen and the others' techniques, and even the appearance of demonic realm creatures, he had completely lost confidence. Heavenly Tao, Qianqian. Yi Chen lifted his eyes to look at the sky and mumbled to himself. The so-called heavenly Tao was the innate rules of this world, such as birth, aging, sickness, and death, joys and sorrows, the cycle of day and night. Therefore, To be precise, the heavenly way did not have a physical body. Even he could only sense the existence of the heavenly way, but he did not know where it was. Master, I sense the aura of the immortal slaying flying saber. The Emperor Brush's excited voice suddenly sounded. I can feel him. He has appeared in the Een ruins again. Immortal slaying flying saber. Yichen was a little excited when he heard that. At that moment, his phone rang. It was Feng Qinzi, who was guarding the Een ruins passageway in China's General Mountain. Heavenly Lord Yi, something big has happened. Come quickly. Feng Qinzi hung up immediately after saying that. Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He then turned around to look at the Patriarch of Hell and the rest, and said, I'll go to General Mountain. You guys stay here and protect the Yi family. Inform me immediately if anything happens. With that, he immediately took a step forward. Ripples rippled under his feet, and his figure disappeared instantly. General Mountain, at the passageway in China's Een ruins. At this moment, an extremely tragic battle broke out. The soldiers guarding this place fearlessly used all kinds of high-tech weapons to kill the huge, ferocious monsters that were wrapped in black gas. The monsters were not powerful, but they were extremely fast. In addition, their armor was extremely hard, and bullets could not penetrate them at all. From time to time, there would be screams, followed by a pungent mist of blood. Stop it. We can't let it escape. At the same time, in the hall near the passageway, many cultivators with weak auras cast many divinities and spells with bloodshot eyes. They attacked the monsters that swarmed out of the passageway. Die! Feng Qinzi spat a mouthful of blood essence. After absorbing the blood essence, the sword in his hand immediately shone brightly, and it was even more powerful than before. With a slash of the sword, a dense group of monsters died on the spot. Even so, there were still many monsters that survived the sword. Then, they whizzed out of the passageway like locusts. It's over. My earth is finished. Seeing that, Feng Qinzi could not help but feel sad. The rest of them also had despair on their faces. If so many monsters escaped to the outside world, it would definitely cause an irreparable situation. Fellow Feng Qinzi, be careful. At that moment, an old monk wearing a kasaya next to him cried out in surprise. He tore off the prayer beads in front of his chest and threw them behind Feng Qinzi. End of this chapter.